All right, welcome in 98.5, the Sports Hub of Joe Murray. Full show tonight. We've had games almost every night this month, but we got a full show. All the games, all the musings in or out, and we got a lot of takes throughout the night here. And of course, you can jump aboard at 617-779-0985. We're also on YouTube. I just launched it. There it is. Einbein's in there, ready to go. Your thoughts on Celtics-Pacers. We'll do a big preview tonight. We got Brian Barrett from The Ringer coming up. The Patriots started voluntary OTAs today. We'll get Alex Barr's thoughts on what happened today there. I am going to react about the Bruins, which, if you listen to the show, we did post-game after Game 6, so I've gotten a lot of my thoughts out, but now I've digested it, and I have come away with a great take that we'll lead off with in just a minute here. But again, the phone number 617-779-0985. Again, see everybody on the YouTube as well. We got Skaz here tonight. And, you know, it's easy to sit here and say the most disappointing team in Boston sports is the Boston Bruins. And I want to start off by saying the big three and this current group of Celtics have also been disappointing. Like the Garnett, Pierce, Ray Allen years, they should have had more than one championship. They went twice. They just should have had more than one. It was disappointing, but they got the one. And now with this group, with Tatum and Brown, you look at it, they've been there once. They've been to the Eastern Conference Finals now. They're 6 times. So, you know, once out of those 5 times, not great. Not great. But when you look at the Boston Bruins, they should have had more than one Stanley Cup title during their run. They absolutely should. And I won't even go back to the 70s where people feel like they should have had more wins too. Let's just keep it to the last 50 years, why don't we? And I want to give Boston Sports Inf some credit on this one. I did this yesterday, and I got every league too. But I just, this one blew me away, and it's my leadoff take tonight. The Boston Bruins are the most disappointing sports franchise of the last 50 years. They're the most disappointing sports franchise of the last 50 years. Just listen to these finals appearances for these teams. The Lakers went 17 times. The Patriots have gone 11 times and won 6. The Yankees have gone 11 times in the last 50 years. The Celtics have gone 10 times over the last 50 years. Montreal has gone 9 times. And then coming in after that, the Boston Bruins. They've made 8 finals appearances over the last 50 years. 1 Stanley Cup. 1. And if I just kept it to the last 20 plus years or so, 25 years, let's say, they're outliers. They're the outlier. There are only a certain amount of teams that haven't won multiples in the NHL. The Bruins are one of them. The Blues certainly were one of them. Carolina has been one of them. Anaheim, one of them. But for the most part, when it comes to the NHL, there have been multiples. Tampa Bay's won 3, right? Pittsburgh. Then you look at the Devils. Colorado's won a pair. So many have won multiples. Chicago as well. When you look at it over the last 50 years, and the Bruins just celebrated their 100th. They've gone 8 times over the last 50 years and have won. They're the most disappointing sports franchise of the last 50 years. I said it. And to lose in the fashion that they did in a Game 6 at home under 2 minutes to go on a soft fluke goal. That's how the season ended. They lost to the better team, but they got outplayed on faceoffs. They don't know how to count how many men are on the ice. And clearly talent was an issue, but they were still in it. This was a bridge year I'm not calling it a successful season. I'm calling it a passing season. There's a lot to look forward to with this Bruins team. They have holes. They know how to fix them. Now, who's going to be in charge of making those decisions? And is Coach Jim Montgomery back? We'll get into that coming up in a bit. But I want you to really think about this. The last 50 years, the Bruins should have more than one Stanley Cup. You remember Chicago, maybe they were the better team. The Blues absolutely were not the better team. They lost in Game 7s. They had the best record in NHL history. They've had seasons where they should have won and didn't. And I'm not letting the Celtics off the hook. And you know what? They still have a shot at doing it this year too. And if they lose, we'll throw them up there as poor disappointments. But at least they won in the 80s. They got one in 08. The Bruins, it's been over, 1 in 50 years. Not good. Not good. Just to add to this, by the way, the Red Sox went 6 times. They have 4. Of course, losing in 75 and in 86. So they went 6 times, won 4. Bruins, 8. Won 1. Won 1. One of the most disappointing franchises in sports over the last 50 years. The Boston Bruins celebrating their 100th season. That's exactly what they are. They've been so disappointing, and they did it again this season. Your thoughts at 617-779-0985. We are here tonight until 11 o'clock. We got Skaz here as well. We're going to be joined again by Alex Barth and Brian Barrett of The Ringer coming up in just a little bit. But your thoughts on the Bees. And I mentioned Jim Montgomery. What's his future going into the final year of his deal with the Boston Bruins? And Don Sweeney's future. Oh, and how about the goaltending future? We'll get into all that coming up on the other side. Let's line them up. 617-779-0985. I'm Joe Murray here on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5. You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5.
I mean, that's, comes down to, their goalie was good and we didn't beat them. I mean, at times, we played too much in our end in the second and third period tonight. We didn't finish. I mean, I don't know. Outside of game one, I don't think, did we score more than 2 goals? I mean, I'm on, my head's all spinning right now, so I don't know. I think we had 3 and we didn't score more. Okay, there you go. But it's not the only thing. There's several other elements of the series. The territorial ozone time that they had over us, it has compounding effects. And I thought we started the game off great, and it got away from us in the second.
All right, back here, 98.5 The Sports Hub. I'm Joe Murray. Got a full show tonight. That was Coach Jim Montgomery after the Game 6 loss, being eliminated by the Florida Panthers, who now take on the New York Rangers in a rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals from a year ago. I got a lot of thoughts on Montgomery, but a couple of people chirping at me about most disappointing team of all time. And I understand people. I get it. The Toronto Maple Leafs, right? No appearance. These are the teams with no appearances. Winnipeg, Toronto, Seattle Mariners, Sacramento Kings, New York Jets, Pelicans, Wild, Timberwolves. Okay? Those teams, I get it. The Atlanta Hawks, if you want to bring that up to me, 0 in the last 50 years. Those are all jokes of teams. They're all jokes. We laugh at them. We pity them. The Bruins, though, have been there 8 times and have won in 50 years. Well, Joe, those teams have none. No, that's the joke. No, you're the Bruins, right? You're supposed to be the class of the last 20 years. One of the outliers have actually won a Stanley Cup with Hall of Fame talent, original 6 team. You're the Bruins. That's why it's a disappointment. Toronto, it's a joke. Right? The Clippers, joke. Memphis Grizzlies, jokes. Cleveland Browns, jokes. Those teams, all a joke. The Bruins, they're no joke. They're in it. They're knocking on the door. That's great. Can you win one? And you did it once in 50 years. And it's been a long time since. And since then, it's been nothing but disappointment. Yeah, you go to Game 7's great. Great. 1 out of 8? Disappointing. Losing at home with under 2 minutes with a softie. Shots on net, the difference in the series. Face-offs. Someone needs to be accountable for the too many men. I'll get into that in a minute here. I mentioned a passing grade for the season. You have young players, goalie, cap space, good system. Now Jim Montgomery goes into his final season. I assume Don Sweeney should be back. And I mentioned over the last 20 years, you look at it, there's one and dones, and the Bruins were one of them. But the team's on the right track. But do they have the right people leading the way? Jim Montgomery is a great regular season coach. We talked about it from his time back in Denver to what he did with Dallas, and look at them now, to Boston breaking a regular season record, to being right back to one of the best teams in the NHL during the regular season. Advanced to a second round and lost in a Game 6. But I think he's going now into a lame duck season. And when you think about the future and when you want to build this team and look for free agents and what's the next core of the Bruins, you don't want a guy in the last year of his deal sticking around. And I know you really don't know what to do with the guy. He's been successful, but at the same time, he would have been canned if they got fired and if they lost in a Game 7. So do they extend him? That's what I would do. I would extend him. Maybe a 1-year, 2-year dummy deal, whatever. You can't let this guy go into the final year of the deal or even go into free agency with free agents wondering who their coach will be in a year. So I'm almost curious if Montgomery's even back this year. And when I say accountability for too many men on the ice, well, is Montgomery accountable for all the adjustments he made and maybe there was confusion? He made a lot of adjustments. How about the goalie situation? If you look at it, was it even smart to play Allmark the way Swayman played all postseason? You're thinking of the future of the team right now. They're going in a really good direction. Is he the guy? Is Jim Montgomery the guy? And there are other names that are out there. Some got floated out. I know Mike Sullivan, who was here in the past. He's now coaching Team USA. He's always wanted to come back. They have a guy in-house in Joe Sacco. The other thing is this. People applaud Jim Montgomery for being great with young players. Are they going to go that route? Are they going to play more of Patra or Fabian Lysell? Are they going to have these younger guys come along, the Merkelovs and these guys? Like, that's an interesting thing for me. What are the Bruins going to do, and are they happy with their coach? Your thoughts at 617-779-0985. Let's talk to Eddie, who's in the car. What's going on, Eddie? You're on the Sports Hub.
Hi, Joe. Originally, I wanted to call in to basically crap on the Revs because you were talking about the Bruins being the most embarrassing. And it's very fun to think about the Revs in 28 seasons losing 5 NLS Cups and being the only team to make it that far that many times.
Yep.
But they really can't be that disappointing when the whole league is kind of a dumpster fire and nobody cares. So then I was thinking more about the Bruins, and you're totally right, where it's just like they're always in it. You're always expecting them to be really good, and then it's like, oh, you're up 3-0. You better lose the series now in 7. Oh, it's 3-1. Let's lose the series. It's just like, you can't keep guys on the bench. You can't have enough guys on the ice. You have too many men on the ice, and you have Hall of Fame players. And it's just like, guys, win again, do something. Like, what is the deal? I don't understand it. It's so infuriating. It's just like, ugh.
Well, it's again, I'm not letting the Celtics off the hook yet. They got something they need to finish this year because they'll be adding them to the list too. But when it comes,
it's the same thing.
Yeah, when it comes to the Bees though, they should have had more than one Stanley Cup. They just should have.
All I think about is I was sitting in my house watching Game 6 against the Blackhawks, and it's like, all right, we're about to win this one. Let's start planning to go out to a bar for Game 7. It's going to be sick. And 30 seconds later, you're like, well, crap. The entire season is gone now. That was horrible. It's like Tuukka Rask just throwing up all over himself for no reason. Guys just blocking the net. It's like, oh, my God.
I know. Yeah, see, he's feeling it. He's feeling it. This is what we mean by disappointment. How many? Yes, I want the team knocking on the door every year. They have. Golf clap. Every year you've been knocking on the door. But for the last 50, this team only has one. That's disappointing. All the Hall of Fame talent that they'll have, the numbers they'll retire, the clout that they'll have. Really, they're just the outlier of teams that won multiple during a 20-year run. Richie's in Avon. What's going on, Richie?
Hey, how are you? Hey, you know, Don Sweeney is the guy who should be fired. His drafts have been terrible for the last 10 years. Your drafts in the last 10 years should produce the second, third, fourth-line players that you need. If you have a high draft pick, you get a superstar like Pasternak, or you get someone high up. They have drafted Pasternak and McAvoy, but that's about it. When you look at everything else, you look at Jake DeBrusk in that draft, which was the worst one in history. We had 3 picks in a row, and then Matthew Barzal came off the board right after that. Since then, they've done nothing. You look at the Providence Bruins, there's nothing there. Your AHL team should be your fourth line in 2, 3, 4 years, maybe your third line as well. We have a Charlie Coyle contract that's probably got 4 or 5 years left. I don't have any notes in front of me, but it's a terrible contract for big money, and we're stuck with this. And Don Sweeney didn't show up. You didn't see his face in any of the playoff games.
Well, he spoke to the media. He went at the refs. He mentioned the refs.
You saw Cam Neely up on the top. You didn't see Don Sweeney. And what do we have in Providence? Normally you'd have a Marchand coming up from Providence, maybe a Carlo coming up from Providence. What do we have?
They have guys. Richard, they have guys. Listen, the draft is clearly there, and I am not a Don Sweeney defender by any means. I thought years ago, when they fired Coach Cassidy, ownership went with management and fired the coach. The coach moved on and won a Stanley Cup. That happened. That was a fact. That actually happened. So management backed Don Sweeney, and what do? They hired Jim Montgomery. He was a hit. And guess what? They were the greatest team all time in the NHL during a regular season. Most people don't care about that anymore. But it happened. It's true. Did they go all in that year and trade first-round picks? Absolutely. Do they even have a first, second, third-round pick this year? No. That does fall on Don Sweeney. Overall, I thought Sweeney had a really good year. I thought the way that he worked this salary cap, found veterans at $1 million deals, it worked. But there are younger guys in Providence. I don't know if they're going to be the guys to fix their holes right now, though. But whenever they bring guys up, they fit right in. And that's my point about Montgomery. He was always good with younger players. Having this salary cap space, they need a top-line center. They don't have it in the minors. They don't. Patra, Lysell, Georgi Merkulov, like these are guys they want to count on, but are they going to be the guys that fill a potentially top six center role? Or top six line, and play that center role? I don't think so. I think Patra could be your third center. I think he can be that guy. But there are guys there. But not having draft picks this year in the first 3 rounds, that falls on Don Sweeney. Ray is in Revere. Hey, Ray.
Yeah, listen, if I compare Sweeney, which is about 8 or 9 years now, to the Chiarelli period, I think hands down Chiarelli was a better general manager. You know, the times we contended for cups, it was largely with Chiarelli's nucleus. And I think Sweeney is basically taking this organization backwards. And they've lost a lot of picks. And they're weaker now. And they're top players. If you look at it, Swayman's legit. But Pasternak and McAvoy are not good enough to build a team around. You know, Sweeney's failed, but from the owner's perspective, 7 home playoff dates and a great regular season is what the owner cares about. But from 50,000 feet, they're going backwards with Don Sweeney.
All right, Ray, and I'll just say this. Ownership has spent to the cap every year. It's hard to get on ownership. Years ago, they went to the side of management over the coach. It worked during the regular season. It's just that coach went on to win a Stanley Cup. This year, they rebuild the team. It's a bridge year. They make it to Game 6 of the semifinal, but people now want to move on from him. Yeah, and he just got listed to be, executive for the Canadian team and all that, too? They have a lot of decisions. Is Montgomery the guy going forward? And do you want Don Sweeney being the guy with this cap space in this offseason? Do you want him making the decisions? Jim is in West Brookfield. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Joe. Nice show as usual. Hey, Patra and Lysell in the playoffs against Florida. This Matt Tkachuk will be laughing through his pacifier at these little guys. Got to move forward with some bigger guys. That's all I got to say. Great show.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you. All right. Biggest disappointment. There's a lot of disappointing teams. There are. Buffalo Bills never won 1 in 4 tries. There's a lot of them. But the Bees, 8 times, 1 championship, celebrating their 100th anniversary. Just not a good look. Not a good look at all. Oh, by the way, speaking of not a good look, let's get into this on the other side. Linus Ullmark talked about his future. You mean his future in Boston? We'll get into that after the headlines. I'm Joe Murray here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
More Joe Murray coming up on The Sports Hub.
All right, back here 98.5 The Sports Hub. That was Linus Ullmark, former Vezina Trophy winner. Backup goalie for the Bruins. Talking yesterday was getaway day. I kind of went over a lot of this, so if you heard it, you're going to hear it again, and if you didn't, well, I'll share it for you now. But Linus Ullmark doesn't have really any intentions of leaving Boston. And now I'm starting to question the man's sanity. Like, he didn't want to get traded at the deadline. He wanted to stay on the Bruins and try to win. And maybe he was promised a platoon, in fairness to him. Wouldn't you rather play for the Bruins and go on a playoff run instead of going to L.A. and moving your whole family? Absolutely. So I respect everything about him, his family, and him not moving on. Like, what I mean by that is his contract. He worked a deal to get that on his side, which is technically the Bruins' fault. So for all the Sweeney people or Cam Neely people, yep, they have been unable to trade this guy twice because of the contract that they created for him. So he's using the leverage of his contract. And now, I don't know if he's trying to help himself, help his situation. Is he trying to, I don't know, maybe get involved in the Swayman sweepstakes on them making a decision there? There's a lot going on with Ullmark, but he didn't want to get traded, and now he doesn't want to leave, and now he's thinking revenge tour. Guys, this one's a little wild to me because I thought that he would be like, all right, Swayman's the guy, I'm going to go elsewhere. No, that guy still thinks he's the guy for the Bruins.
He's like holding them hostage almost, which I almost kind of respect because the writing is clearly on the wall. They've tried to make it as clear as possible, and he's just like, no, you guys have me under contract. I'm making pretty good money. I don't even have to play that many games if I don't have to, and I'm still going to get paid, so I'm just going to stay here.
I feel like this is free agent speak a little bit, though. Like, maybe he's saying that to make a team give a better offer. Something. There's something to it because whatever he's doing, it makes no sense to me, and that aggravates me.
Well, he's in a position of power right now, and he's using it.
He is. Let me just throw out this scenario someone mentioned yesterday to me. Not a Joe take, by the way, because, people selective hearing, right? They're driving around and they're going to be like, Joe said they got to trade Swayman. Yesterday, someone mentioned the way that this team is built right now, maybe they should look to trade Jeremy Swayman as a restricted free agent and get a haul, get the bag, right? People are talking about these draft picks they don't have. They don't have to get into an potentially $8 million a year contract. I don't think it's stupid. But I feel like they should at least see what the haul would be. You don't like that, huh?
I just think from everything we've seen, this team with Swayman in front of them compared to with Ullmark is such a different team that, I don't know, you have the guy, you found the guy, and the guy is a kid. Keep the kid. You lock him up now. You got him for the next 7-8 years. Yeah, it's probably a little more money than you want to spend on a goalie, but you don't have to think about the position. If you stay with Ullmark, you trade Swayman, Ullmark craps his pants in the playoffs, or he...
Well, then you got Boosie.
So now we're putting it all on that kid who we don't know about. When you do know about Jeremy Swayman, true. I'm out on that.
All right. I just would like to float out there that if this would be the best opportunity to move on from Swayman and not be locked into an $8 million contract. I'm not the one who, again, came up with that take. I just wanted to throw it out to the atmosphere. But the Bruins' top 3 paid players at that point would be Pasternak, McAvoy, Swayman. It's going to be Ullmark who's gone, and I'm already reading here. The Toronto Maple Leafs are interested in 2 Bruins players. The first is Jake DeBrusk, but the second is Linus Ullmark. I don't know if they would make the deal, if they would do that. I don't know if they would trade him to a heated rival that they'll face, 4 times next year? But could they get something in return? That's one of the teams interested in Ullmark. And I don't know what other teams are on the list. I know that it changes when the offseason starts. But the Ullmark thing is interesting. It's clearly they want to move on. They've tried. he wants to stay here, it sounds like. I don't blame him for that. But man, hearing that quote, do we have another quote by him, by the way? Yesterday, he said a bunch of things. One of them was his revenge tour. He doesn't want to leave. Let's hear some more from Linus Ullmark.
I've never been a part of any trade talks before, so that was a new experience. Was it hard? Yeah, it was hard because you're very comfortable where you are. You don't want to move when you feel like you're playing well, and you have the team, you have the boss, and the teammates. So with that popping up now, I'm not the only one that's been trade talks, obviously. There was other goaltenders out there in the league as well that there was a lot of rumors with that they make big bucks, and there might not be any opportunities for any of them, and for me, it's about my pay grade as well, really, and I don't have the luxury to choose that. If I could, I'm probably going to say the same thing as everybody else would. I want to stay, and I'm going to stay. But we live in a world where professional sports is, you got to deal with the hand you've been dealt with. And like I said, I have one more year. I wouldn't want anything else than to come back here, get a little bit of a revenge tour. Like I said, I'm very excited, motivated for what's to come, especially now. To be a father, at first, that's what my goal is, to, catch up on what the kiddos are doing and attend soccer practices and enjoy life a little bit with them, because it's very hectic during the playoffs, and they get lost a little bit, obviously, during that time.
It's so hectic for you all, Mark, to back up Swayman. It's just so hectic for you. John is in Freetown. What's going on, John?
First of all, Joe, I love all of your shows. You're very well-rounded. It's not always sports, and you're very diverse, and I really appreciate what you do for me, especially because I enjoy how you attack your show. That being said, I think you're looking at it wrong with Omar. I think he literally is so comfortable with the fact that mediocrity is great for the Boston Bruins, and he realized that last year after crapping his pants in the playoffs, and everything is awesome, and nobody loses their job, and Montgomery's back, and he's like, hey, great, I can make all this money and sit here and not have to worry about anything. It's just like he's very comfortable. There's no accountability. That being said, I also believe that the only reason he signed with Boston was because we grossly overpaid for him, or Don Sweeney did. Because I can almost guarantee you, listening to his comments, that all the teams, Joe, on his no trade are very, very powerful fan bases along the National Hockey League. He doesn't like pressure. He doesn't want to be pushed. He doesn't want accountability. The only reason he came to Boston because Don Sweeney is stupid enough to give him all that money.
Not a bad take, John. I'm always down with looking at things in a different light, and you know what? This team is very comfortable, right? Remember, they didn't like the young guys for a long time?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Not bad. Thanks, John. It's too comfortable here for Linus Ullmark. Oh, you don't want to trade him to the Kings? All right, fine. You'll be a backup. That's fine. Billy's in Bridgewater. Hey, Billy.
Guys, how you doing tonight?
How you doing?
Oh, doing fantastic. Listen, you can't actually – I would trade Swayman in a heartbeat, and I'll tell you why. Your buddy that says he wants to keep the kid and get rid of Linus, you're talking about the guy that's lost every Game 7 that they – Swayman is the guy that's been in net when they've been eliminated 3 years in a row. Right. Not Ullmark, Swayman.
He did win a Game 7, let's be accurate.
Well, did he?
Did he? Yeah.
Did he?
Yes.
Was he the reason they won that game?
Yes. He let up less goals.
Come on.
Billy, come on, Billy. Let's be fair.
Okay, let's be fair. Was Swayman in the talks for best goalie of the year? No, that was Linus.
Well, that was last
Swayman
year.
is streaky. Swayman is streaky. He always has been.
Billy, he might be. This isn't an argument. Wait,
but you can get more for Swayman.
That's what I'm saying.
Trade Swayman in a heartbeat. Everybody's falling in love with Swayman because he's the young kid and he's flashy. No, he's streaky. He hasn't won anything. He hasn't even won a coffee cup, never mind a Stanley Cup.
He's certainly won a lot more than Linus Ullmark, though, hasn't he?
Well, Ullmark won a Vezina.
Oh, so regular season.
And the President's.
Oh, yeah, those regular season awards we care so much about.
Well, here in Boston, they do. I will say this. The first caller made good take about things are too comfortable here.
So Jeremy Swayman has won nothing, but Linus Ullmark, who's repeatedly crapped his pants in the playoffs, winner.
Swayman had to play because Ullmark couldn't.
That game 7, was it 6-5? Is that how the Bruins won that game? Or was it 2-1 in overtime?
It was 2-1 in overtime.
It was 2-1 in overtime. I was just checking. Usually your goalie's pretty good in a 2-1 game.
A lot of different opinions on that one, huh?
Well, no, one was just wrong, but yeah.
Again, that's why we bring up facts, right? It is a fact that some things do happen.
Yes, Jeremy Swayman won a game 7 where he allowed 1 goal.
That's a fact. That did happen. Man, the goalie here in Boston, toughest job in the city. Is it?
I mean, you get all the blame and none of the credit, so I don't know.
I mean, Tuukka Rask is, granted, Tuukka Rask, one of the best regular season Ooh, there's another one. One of the best regular season performers. This is my whole point about the Bruins. They're the most underachieving team of the last 50 years. They're celebrating their 100th anniversary, and they have 1 of 50. And all we talk about is the great regular season awards that they have. And the 1 Stanley Cup that Tim Thomas was a fluke. We'll get back to the Bees. The Celtics, hey, they're back in action. They're not off the hook either. We'll do Bruins all night. We got Celtics. We got it all as we're here until 11 o'clock. I'm Joe Murray here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5.
right, back here at 98.5 The Sports Hub. We'll get into the Celtics in a minute, I swear. I guess people got triggered when I said that the 2011 Stanley Cup was a fluke. I rephrase, if I may have a mulligan, I called it the outlier. How about that? Outlier. So here are the teams one more time if you need it. There have been seven multiple champions the last 25 years in the NHL. So 7 multiples. 3 were Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, and I know that a bunch won too. So the one and dones were Carolina in 06, Anaheim 07, the Bruins in 2011, Washington in 18, Blues in 19, Knights in 23. Bruins were a part of 2 of 6 of those. They only have 1. So they're an outlier. They are an outlier. Should we credit the Bruins because they were one of the 13? Or is it disappointing because they only won 1 of the 3 they went to? It's just, I'm torn on that one. So I'm not going to call the win a fluke, but it is the outlier. They were a one and done in 2011, and that's the point. Over the last 50 years, they've made it 8 times, won once. Am I going on a ledge here saying they're the most disappointing team of the last 50 years?
I think they're right up there. I mean, maybe there's got to be a couple teams that haven't won at all, but in terms of like how many times they've gotten there and the rosters they've had, yeah, I think they deserve to be right up there.
I just figured because they've been to 8 of them. Like the Red Sox went to 6, they won 4. The Patriots went to 11, they won 6. The Yankees have won. The Lakers have won multiples in the last 50 years. I think 7 or 9, I think it is. So the more I look at it, like, yeah, they're right up there. We have breaking. I can do it in the head. Want me to do it in the headlines? Because I don't think we should use a breaking news sounder on this guy unless you want to.
This isn't really breaking news. Powered by Tim McCone.
Oh yeah, baby. After 9 NFL seasons, Eagles wide receiver Devontae Parker has decided to retire. As much as he looked forward to his time with the Eagles, Parker decided the time had come to spend more time with his family that included his 4 children. Quote, I want to see my kids. Aww.
Would you call that a whiff by the Patriots with the Devontae Parker signing?
I would call it a whiff, and just like last year when he didn't stretch out for a ball on a 3rd down or 4th down, I forget what it was. Aww. Devontae Parker retiring, doesn't want to try hard and play with a Super Bowl team. Just going to call it quits now. Would they give up a 2nd round pick for Devontae Parker? Is that what it was? Yeah.
Out of the league.
Mm-hmm. We'll get into more Patriots stuff coming up in a bit. We'll get your Sports Up headlines and Celtics-Pacers. What are you thinking? I got a bunch of takes for you. We'll do that next here on 98.5 The Sports Up.
WBCFM from the Town Fair Tire Studios, the home of the Patriots, the Celts, the Revs, and the Bruins. Boston's home for sports is 98.5 The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines.
All right, we'll get into the Celtics and Pacers series. They'll play game 1 on Tuesday night. Pacers just off a 7-game series with New York. No Kristaps Porzingis. Xavier Tillman's listed as questionable. In the Western Conference, Mavs and Wolves, they'll meet after the Wolves won in 7 games last night. Patriots opened up their optional OTAs today. All 4 quarterbacks in attendance. Drake May with the best key pass of the day. No Matthew Judon or Cole Strange at practice today. And as you just heard, Devontae Parker has announced his retirement from the NFL. He was, I believe, traded to the Eagles this year. And the Red Sox currently in action against Tampa Bay. No score in that one. Actually, now the Red Sox are up 5-0 Wow. Where'd they get all those runs? Ceddanne Rafaela with a homer, along with Rafael Devers. 5-0, fifth inning. Headlines are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm Joe Murray. Your next update in 30 minutes.
Tatum has been spectacular.
This is Jason Tatum.
Right corner against Embiid. Tatum for a 50-piece.
You're listening to the home of Boston Celtics basketball. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
I hate to be redundant. The Porzingis injury is going to be huge this series because Indiana might be the deepest team in the NBA. And they play everybody. They play quality minutes. They don't hide guys. They don't overplay their stars. Siakam can play against anybody. Halliburton's going to do his thing. Man, this is going to be a very good series. Like I say, I'm going to probably pick the Celtics, but I've been saying, and me and Kenny both been saying, the Celtics are not going to win the championship without Porzingis. And this series here, this is a 6 or 7 game series.
But I think if there is no Porzingis, it falls on Tatum. And what I mean is sometimes he gets into situations where he settles. Brown is not that guy. He's going to go for it. But Tatum gets to where he settles sometimes for just jump shots. If there's no Porzingis, he's going to have to be in attack mode, continue putting pressure on the defense, drawing fouls, getting to the free throw line, as well as a lot of shots.
All right, back here 98.5 The Sports Hub. Everyone's got an opinion about the Celtics right now. I was playing sound all weekend long. The Celtics are boring. There's nobody that anybody likes. I get it. When you look at ESPN, let's use them for an example. They want to talk about Embiid and Giannis and LeBron and, Steph and just all those stars. Where are all those stars right now? Where are all the former MVPs? They're all out of the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. So, yeah, the Celtics may be boring. Maybe they are. I'll tell you right now, though, this series won't be. And I'll break that down for you coming up in a bit. I know Brandon's been waiting for a bit. He's in Boston. What's going on, Brandon? What's your thoughts on the series here?
Hey, what's going on? So, yeah, I agree. This is a Jason Tatum series. But I disagree that we need Porzingis to beat the Pacers. I think we can win with or without him. But people always think that, it's Tatum or Jaylen Brown to worry about. My concern is Holiday because he has these slow starts where he needs to be more efficient. I mean, I want to see him get 15-plus points per game, 5-plus rebounds per game, 5-plus assists a game. There's games where he's just settling. And I remember watching one game where he didn't score the whole quarter, the whole first quarter, and then scored his first 2 points in the second. So when you look at this Miami series, the first 3 games he scored 6, 9, and 3. Then he was in double figures in 4 and 5 with 11 and 10. And then with the Cavaliers, he scored 14, which is good, first game. Second game, he scored 4 points. The last 3 games, he was in double figures and went over 15 with 18 and 16. I need him to be efficient in scoring. He needs to get his baskets, and the team needs to ride on him. I never see him at the free throw line, which is strange. Do you?
I think it's strange, my man.
Why? My thing is, why is he getting on these slow starts? He needs to go. Listen, you're facing Halliburton. He's going to get his. He's going to make you work. So you got to keep up the scoring with him. And then with Joe, my last point with Joe, you have to use all your bigs. Like when it comes to Al Horford, Luke Tillman, even Kata, you got to use him. When it comes to Kata, I'll tell him this: we don't need you swiping at the ball at all. Just go up there and grab rebounds, put your hands up and block. We don't need you in foul trouble. Just defend the paint, grab rebounds. He has to use all his bigs. You just can't use Tillman and Luke. You got to go deep in your bench because there are some bigs on the Pacers that you have to worry about. And, James Johnson, right? Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Oh, sorry. No. Thank you, Brandon. A lot of numbers there, Brandon. I know you're ready, bro. Listen, let's not look up the 1 through 12 and all that. This is the key to the series. This is the key to the series. Can Aaron Nesmith, Nembhard, I'm trying to think of some of the other guys. Can Aaron Nesmith defend?
No.
Can Aaron Nesmith
and Aaron
Halliburton
Nesmith.
defend in this series?
The Pacers do not defend. And that very scary James Johnson he's talking about has played how many minutes in the playoffs in 23-24, Joe? That would be a total of 1 minute.
1 minute.
So I wouldn't be too worried about James Johnson.
So looking at, okay, so to me it's Nembhard, Halliburton, Nesmith. Those three guys, can they defend Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Derek White?
I think Siakam's getting one of those guys.
I think Siakam will probably get Tatum, probably.
He's ended it I guess maybe because Kawhi was there a lot, but in Toronto, he would end up on Jaylen a lot, and Jaylen would cook him.
This is the thing.
The Pacers, I am not worried about the Indiana Pacers.
I know they can score. Here's the only thing that concerns me of the Celtics: if they have a bad shooting night, do they not play defense? Like that's real. We've seen it at least in each series. I'm not banking on Aaron Nesmith defending Jaylen Brown. I'm sorry. Like, where's Cerrone with the barbecue chicken?
Yeah, Aaron Nesmith has been really good. I think, Celtics fans remember he's a little out of control here. He's kind of reined it in. He's showing why there was all those scouting reports of him being the best shooter in that draft. He's a solid player, but, I mean, Aaron Nesmith is not standing in the way of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown going to a finals.
Well, we'll do an in-depth preview throughout the whole entire night, but of the 4 conference finals teams, only Drew Holiday, Pascal Siakam, Kyrie Irving, and Markieff Morris have a ring.
And none of them are on the team they won the ring with.
So you got to figure Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, or Tyrese Halliburton, one of those players will get their first ring, right? It's the first time in history that no current or former MVP in the Final Four playoff teams. And that's been since 1956. I'll say this. The Celtics have built their whole entire team trying to win a title without having an MVP or someone at the top of their roster. And that will actually have to happen this year. I've said it all along, and I stand by my take still. People might think this is the easiest path, the best path, whatever you want to call the path. I have called this path for months. I have said they can front-run their way to an NBA final and an NBA championship. They may actually do that. Now, they are taking less three-pointers, 10 or more less three-pointers a game than they did in the regular season. That's been an adjustment by Mazzulla. That's been an adjustment. But the Celtics built their team by not acquiring MVPs, by drafting, and here they are now. And you've heard Tatum say it how many times? We weren't built this year. We don't have MVPs or Coach of the Years or those kind of guys. I think the reason why he's saying that is he doesn't want to play 65 games anymore. But the flip side of it, they're a team that might be the first to do it. They might be the first. And parity in the whole NBA now, it's real. It is now real. We'll get more into the preview of the Celtics and Pacers series. We'll talk with Brian Barrett from The Ringer coming up in just a little bit. But let's talk to Jeff, who's in Wareham. What's up, Jeff?
What's going on, man? Here's my thing. If you're a Celtics fan and you're scared of the Indiana Pacers, then something is drastically wrong. Because the way this team has been built, you were scared of maybe Denver, and that was about it. I mean, that was the only team I was scared of going into the season. If you're scared of Indiana, then you should be petrified of a team like Minnesota. So if you're scared of Indiana, something is really wrong. And here's the thing. I think it's going to come back to Tatum this year. If the Celtics win, Tatum is going to get the glory and he's going to get the shine. And if they lose, he's going to get a lot of the hate for it. And that's why a lot of people are already saying, well, I like Edwards better, is because he's been doing something with Minnesota that if you switch places, they don't think Tatum can do the same thing. So, I don't know. A lot of pressure on Tatum this year for sure.
How about this, though, too? And yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Tatum and Brown. I think that's what we'll find out. Do they can get there? Can they get over that hump? We'll look at all that. My whole take is, you still need that third guy. Like, it can't just be one of these stars who win. I think with this team, they need that third guy there. But as people keep talking about, Tatum's got to take games over, or Anthony, what we just saw with Edwards, he needs to take games over,
which he didn't do last night. He was maybe their third or fourth best player.
That's been my whole take for so long. The league isn't about the one individual superstar anymore.
No, the narrative around Edwards has gotten crazy. He was okay last night.
Oh, he was a dog. Don't get me wrong.
He hit a big
dog
three,
out there.
But he was 6 of 24 shooting, which Tatum would get crucified for. And Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, Naz Reid were all awesome last night, which is what you need to win a title.
We talked about this, right? All these teams, Karl Anthony Towns needed all these other guys.
And he was awesome last night.
Yep. Rudy Gobert had to go in and get someone bigger than Karl Anthony Towns so he could be not for nothing, but Garnett kind of needed that too in his day. He needed that big so he could kind of play his game a little bit better. The Timberwolves got up McDaniels, right? Who's a good power forward, whatever you want to call him, probably 3 on that team, but he plays defense. They've really built the team well. Celtics have too. Here's my biggest problem. ESPN is dying to try to find the next superstar. The Celtics are boring. They are. They are dying for Anthony Edwards to be the next star. Right? They already got Luka. They get him on a big stage.
I don't know if you saw any of it, but they certainly tried hard with Jalen Brunson over the weekend. That was embarrassing coverage.
The New York coverage was embarrassing. Wow, as the lights just went out in the studio.
Shut the lights off.
Was that what they did? ESPN? They were like, hey, stop talking about us. Why? Because you're desperately trying to find the next star instead of looking at the ones that are there.
You would have thought that was a local broadcast this weekend.
Oh yeah, Stephen A. Smith. I thought you covered Philly, bro. Like, what's up with that? No, but for real, ESPN. Who do they talk about all the time? Embiid, right? They talk about all these guys that barely win.
Tyrese Halliburton has been to more Eastern Conference Finals than Joel Embiid now.
I like Halliburton a lot.
He's good.
Who was that Sacramento trade worked. But just thinking about it, they want Anthony Edwards to be the next star so bad because he's interesting. Because John Morant was on that track too, right? They're trying so hard. Guys, when we do shows, what do you want to lead on? Well, the Sun, this is kind of boring. This is kind of... ESPN's like, who's a star that we can hang on to, right? That's all they're looking for. But yet, the guy who's been there a bunch, the guy who's got to get over the hump, where's the story of the Celtics finally finishing their story, right? Where is the Celtics finishing their storyline on ESPN? They're not doing it because they're boring. They'd rather go with Anthony Edwards, who talks crap or was in a movie with Adam Sandler. Talk to Brian Barrett from The Ringer. Get his thoughts on that coming up next here on the Sports Hub.
More Joe Murray coming up on the Sports Hub.
ringer. He's got stats galore. Any stats stand out to you as far as maybe an advantage for the Celtics or Pacers in this series, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I would just look at how bad the Pacers' defense has been, not only during the regular season, but in the postseason, too. I mean, you look at their defensive rating in the playoffs, 118.1, 13th of the 16 teams. During the regular season, they were 24th in defense. During the regular season, they gave up the most free throws per game. During this postseason run, 13th of 16 teams. They're also not a good rebounding team either. So there are some advantages I think that the Pacers rather can try to get to offensively. I think they can give the Celtics some trouble, especially without Porzingis on that end of the court. They're an elite offensive team. In fact, number 2 in the NBA this season behind only the Celtics in offensive rating. And now in the postseason, they've been the best offense. The Celtics have been the second best offense. But I just look on the other end of the court. This isn't a Final Four caliber defense. You don't see too many teams this bad make it this far in the postseason. A lot of that we can attribute to injury when you're looking at what Milwaukee was dealing with. And then, of course, in this last round, what the New York Knicks were dealing with. So this is a team that the Celtics should take care of relatively easily. If this goes past 5 games, I think you got to be worried from a Celtics perspective. I mean, you look at the line right now that FanDuel has it at in terms of 2.5 games. It's minus 144 for the Celtics to cover that 2.5. The Pacers plus 2.5 is plus 118. So this adds up for the Celtics to have a very easy trip to the NBA Finals, unless, like we've seen in the past, mess around and play with their food. But they're not the defensive team that we saw last year. Bam Adebayo is one of the best defensive players in the NBA. They don't have anybody like that on the other side. And Jimmy Butler with what he do, this just feels like on paper this is a massive mismatch.
We mentioned Aaron Nesmith's name a few times. How do you think the Pacers will go about defending the Celtics offensively? You mentioned the struggles the Pacers will have. How about the other way around? How will the Pacers defend Tatum, Brown, and Derek White?
Yeah, it's interesting because Nesmith always seems to get up for these games against the Celtics, and he hasn't shot the ball well in the postseason until the last game, that Game 7. He had 19 points on 8 of 8 shooting when the Pacers had the best shooting performance basically in the history of the sport. But it was pretty crazy to just watch that game yesterday. I'm not upset that they're not playing the Knicks. I was sick and tired of the whole bringing back the legends, Larry Johnson, et cetera, Latrell Sprewell, all those guys that had won 0 championships. But on the defensive side of the floor for the Pacers, they have a lot of decisions they have to make, and I would imagine that Siakam is going to get the Tatum matchup and Jaylen Brown is going to be covered by Aaron Nesmith. The big decision they have to make is what they're going to do with Tyrese Halliburton, because Tyrese Halliburton, he's a DH. He only plays on one side. You could see what they tried to do in that Knicks series is basically the Knicks tried to bring him up into the action. They had him show and recover so they could avoid having him cover Jalen Brunson at all costs. Now, the one thing about the Celtics that's different about the Knicks, well, in terms of how they play offense, the Celtics are ruthless. When they want to go after a mismatch, they'll do it, whether it be Tyler Hero, whether it be Darius Garland. They've done this over and over again in different postseason series. At times, I think they may do it too much. But you would think that they're going to put Halliburton on Derek White, but I don't think that's a wise matchup from their perspective, because we all know what the Celtics love to do offensively, especially with Porzingis out of the lineup. They love to use Derek White as a screener for Jason Tatum and run that inverted pick and roll, so then Tatum would get Halliburton on him. So I think that the Pacers should put him on Drew, because Drew is less involved with that type of stuff. Now, Drew, if he gets Halliburton on him, he'll try to punish him down low. We know that Drew loves to post, but I think it's the lesser of two evils than having Derek White, him covering Derek White. He's going to be involved way too much, and that's sort of the problem with the Pacers. They have a lot of buttons that you can push on that side of the court, and they have one guy that can protect the rim in Miles Turner, and you get him out of the paint, lift him out of the paint, they're in real trouble. That's why if I was the Pacers, I'd look at what the Cavaliers did, and I know Al Horford was awesome in Game 7, but they asked him to do a lot. I mean, you go back to the game that Mitchell went off. He was 6 of 11 against Al. Garland shot the ball poorly, but how often did we see him ISO'd up against Al Horford? So what I would do if I was the Pacers, I would put Turner on Al Horford, and I would leave him, because they just have way too many other things they have to concern themselves with. And maybe there's a game where Al Horford goes off like he did against Cleveland, but I think Cleveland came away from that game saying, you know what, we weren't going to get beat by Jalen driving to the basket anymore, so they clogged up the lane. I think they're going to have to come up with an underdog strategy, so that's something I would do. I would be playing off Al Horford a lot.
All right, talk about Brian Barrett from The Ringer. We're previewing the Pacers and Celtics series. Rick Carlisle versus Joe Mazzulla. I think you could put the checkbox next to Rick Carlisle, but what kind of game plan could he come up with? Could they go to a zone again? And, I looked at the stats. Porzingis this year versus the Pacers, he played in 4 games, had 19, 17, and 13, only played 6 minutes in one of them, but did pretty well this year against the Pacers.
Yeah, and the other thing is, on their side of things, we didn't see Siakam in a Pacers uniform against the Celtics, right? So it's tough to, get too much out of what happened in those matchups. I mean, and the other component to this is all the matchups against the Pacers happened before basically they put in the new rules where you can basically play prison ball basketball where you can foul guys a lot more than you were earlier in the season. So from that perspective, that doesn't really give me any fear from a Celtics aspect looking at the Pacers because they're not a very physical team. But I will say this about Carlisle. I thought there was times in that last series where it took them too long to get TJ McConnell in the game. And there was times where they still had Nembhard on Jalen Brunson, where Jalen Brunson was eating them alive. So we'll see. Rick Carlisle has always been an awesome offensive coach. So one thing the Celtics have to do, and they have been, during the regular season, the Celtics were basically the best transition defense in the NBA. That's the one place where I think the Pacers could try to take advantage is to run. But I don't think there's a lot of buttons he can press on that side of the floor in terms of what they can do from a defensive perspective. Offensively is where I think they have the advantages they can try to get to, where Tyrese Halliburton, and he had this stretch after he came back he got injured against the Celtics, that hammy situation. When he came back, he didn't really look like himself. And I would even say for most of the Bucks series, he did not look like himself outside of a couple of games where he had big performances. But it felt like at the end of this Knicks series, especially Game 7, he looked awesome. He was going at it with the crowd. And we saw Halliburton earlier in the season. Like I said, I don't know how much you put into the regular season matchups, but he found some things against the Celtics team. But I think they're going to have a lot of stuff to go to, the Celtics, that is. And I will say this, the one thing that I really thought was a major error on Joe Mazzulla's part, look, they won the series 4-1. So I totally understand this is a team that has a propensity to mess around with play with their food and make series longer than they otherwise should be. But I just don't understand, Joe, why they didn't try other things. That game was basically, is Al Horford going to hold up against Garland and ISO, and is Al Horford going to beat you shooting the ball? And I just don't understand why in that Cavs series, especially considering what we're looking at with this Pacers team, I would advocate playing small at times because their backup big is Isaiah Jackson. And Miles Turner, by the way, he can't score in the post. This is a guy that can shoot threes, but he cannot score in the post. So when I look at it, why didn't they go to Tatum at the 5 at all during that last series against Cleveland when the only big you were worried about on that team was Evan Mobley? And at times they already had Tatum covering Evan Mobley to begin with, even if you wanted to try out a guy like Brissett, which Brissett has been a great crasher. We know he can't really shoot the ball, but if you have Brissett on the floor, you could pretty much switch everything. So I will be interested in the series if they press the small ball lineup at all, because they don't really have guys that can hurt you in the post. Siakam can do stuff in there, but he's going to be covered by a wing anyway. So that's where I don't understand why he didn't, and I get it's the playoffs, but why not experiment with things during that series? It didn't really make sense to me.
Looking ahead here, Brian, Western Conference, everybody loves Anthony Edwards right now. I was just making this take about how everyone seems to think that the Celtics are boring. I'm not offended by that, by the way. A lot of Celtics fans are, but hey, if Tatum and Brown are boring and the Celtics are boring, I just feel like everyone's looking for that next superstar, right? They want it to be Anthony Edwards bad, I feel like right now. Luka's still there. Kyrie's on the other side. Just looking at the Western Conference, how do you see that shaping up? And if the Celtics do advance, what is your prediction for a final?
Yeah, so I had Minnesota in 6 games, and obviously once it's not go the way I thought it was going to go, based on how crazy that series was, where basically Denver's down 0-2 and they come all the way back. It's tough to go against Minnesota right now, but I look at that Mavericks team. They've had one of the best defenses since basically they had a real struggle a couple games after the All-Star break, but since that point, they've been one of the best defenses in the league. Lively's been awesome for them. And I trust Luka, and I hate to say it, I trust him and Kyrie late in these games. And I think that there's going to be a lot of close games in that series. I think Dallas is actually going to edge them out and get to the finals, meaning it would set up a Kyrie Irving versus the Celtics in the NBA Finals. And I think the Celtics would beat either one of Minnesota or Dallas in the NBA Finals. I thought what happened, the result that we got last night in that Denver-Minnesota game was one of the biggest things. We talk about all the breaks they've had in terms of the injuries. I thought that may have been the biggest break that the Celtics have caught thus far. And look, it's nothing against Minnesota. That Denver team, we saw it twice. They're just so good against the Celtics executing late in those games. And the difference is so much of this can be determined by matchups, right? Like Minnesota has a good matchup for Jokic, and Jokic still had 35 points, but they can put Towns on him and have Rudy Gobert sort of roaming behind him. The Celtics, even Porzingis, he's 7'3", but we saw it. He's not a good matchup for Jokic. Jokic can just put him in the goal because he's so overpowering. So I just look at it, and I'm assuming a healthy Porzingis by the end of this series and the NBA Finals because you want to at least get his cardio back up at the time you finals. But Porzingis, I would continue to battle for him.
All right. Sorry. All right, Brian, we love you, buddy, at the Ringer. If he calls back, I'll just tell him we'll get him back. That was like some R2D2, huh? That was Joe Stats, Celtics win. Don't need Porzingis. I just remember the Star Wars commercials growing up with the R2D2, do you have a cigarette? Well, I don't think smoking is growing up at all. And then all of a sudden, C-3PO is like, oh, hello. Smoking is not cool, so please don't smoke. And then it goes into the Star Wars music. R2, do you really think I don't have a heart? All right, Brian, we got you one more time, man. I was saying how it sounded like R2D2 for a minute.
Oh, sorry about that, man. Yeah, so I don't know, where did I get cut off?
I don't know, but just I got one more for you. What about the TJ McConnell, Peyton Pritchard matchup? Who has the edge?
I love Peyton Pritchard, but I got to give it to McConnell. I mean, he flipped that series at times during that thing. That is going to be funny to watch. Those two guys going back and forth. And, man, I think Pritchard's been outstanding. I don't know if you agree or disagree with this. I think Pritchard's been outstanding for them throughout this postseason run. I mean, he's been really a most dependable reserve. At times we saw, like, Joe sort of lose faith with Hauser. But Pritchard, I think, has been awesome.
All right, man. Well, he's Brian Barrett from The Ringer. You guys got a bunch of coverage, huh? You guys are all over the NBA Eastern and Western Conference Finals, huh?
Got to be, man. That time of the year, you know?
You got it. Well, Brian, we'll do it again, man. We've had, like, I don't know, 10 shows, nights without shows in a row, and then now we're going to have shows again. So we'll be reaching out all through this Celtics run, my man.
I appreciate. Are you stretched out yet, or you need another night?
I'm good, man. We got tonight. I'm letting it all loose, and then tomorrow we're stretched out. I'm like Scotty Scheffler in a jail cell. You know what I mean? Just stretching out, getting ready to go. So we'll catch up soon, my man. Appreciate you.
All right, have a good one, Joe.
All right, Brian Barrett of The Ringer, everybody. Check out his podcast as well. Do you remember that Star Wars PSA commercial growing up?
I think that was a little before my time.
Yeah, it used to be on Channel 56 a lot. If you've watched, well, I don't know if you had all that, but I just threw it in the old Slack so you guys can catch up on your R2D2 C-3PO days. All right, we're going to get the headlines here. I'm Joe Murray.
Sports Hub headlines.
Celtics and Pacers will play Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow at the Garden. We have all the coverage here at the Sport on the
talk about the Celtics.
You know what it is? It's you say there's no one there that like scares you. There's no one there that excites me.
True.
Like I find them boring. I'm sorry, Celtics fans, come at me all you want. And it's not that we don't believe in them to go to the finals.
No.
They're going to the finals.
100.
But they're going to the finals not because at this point it doesn't seem like they're the best team. They're just the most healthy team at this point.
All right, back here 98.5, the Sports Hub. That was Michelle Beadle and some guy who didn't know that Kristaps Porzingis was there. That was your first thought, right, when you heard that?
Oh, my first thought was him saying the Celtics aren't going to the finals because they're the best team. Did he miss the regular season where they won 64 games? Did he miss the playoffs where they've only lost 2 games?
Yes.
What are we doing?
You know what, guys? Let's redirect everybody to 985thesportshub.com. Okay, if you click on the left-hand side, it says on air. If you click Joe Murray, you'll read articles from myself and Skaz. Skaz, you wrote one a while ago that was about teams that how the regular season is important.
Yes, the regular. You think the Nuggets wish they won one of those last games against the Spurs so they could have avoided Minnesota in the second round?
Yeah, instead Wemby, had to get his 1,000th point of the year or something to get that new Topps card from Fanatics.
It's boring to only lose 2 games the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. It's boring to win 64 games, and now because they're boring, they're also not the best team in the league.
So what Michelle Beadle said, I'm not upset with her about.
No, I thought she brought up some good points.
She doesn't want them in there because they're boring. They've been there how many times? In her defense, they've only been to the NBA Finals once. They've knocked on the door 5 times and have gone once. So they might be boring to some of you. They're not boring to me. I don't think this series is boring at all. I'm going to keep saying this. When it comes to mainstream basketball, there are 2 networks, ESPN and TNT. TNT has former champions, former all-stars, and great analysts who sit there, and former players, by the way, who will sit there and tell you, yep, do that in the playoffs, yawn, wake me up, which, you know what? In their defense, fine. Charles Barkley gets paid a lot of money to do that and does very well at it. And Draymond Green wants to come out and call them, hey, $300 million here, $300 million there. They're boring. It's times now. Vince Carter did it last night, too. Kenny Smith said, hey, you know what? They deserve it. They won games at home and closed them out. All I'm saying is it's okay if the Celtics are boring and if you think they're boring. But you know what? The Spurs were too, right? Some of those, the Dallas team that beat the Miami Heat, boring. It's okay to be boring. I'm not upset with what they say. It's just don't say that you don't know if they're the best team and then say that because they're healthy when they're not. So again, I would ask you, research. Do your research before you make dumb takes. Anything else you want to add there?
No, I think that was pretty succinct. I mean, they were the best team in the league. They earned the 1 seed. Sorry if that's boring because they were just that much better than everybody else, but that's reality. I mean, it's like they're being penalized for not playing 6 or 7 games in the first 2 rounds.
Oh, they didn't play any close games. It's going to hurt them in the long run. Right? And again, I went TNT. ESPN is dying for a next star. Right? They're not going to get Giannis. They're not going to get any of the stars. Not even Jokic, who they say is boring. Right? They're getting none of those stars. They better pray Anthony Edwards wins, right? Oh, but if Luka and Kyrie, that's not good enough for them? Jason Kidd? That's not good enough for them? So you don't want Joe Mazzulla, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Think about all these guys. All of them, at some point, have to get over the hump, right? Tatum and Brown got to do it. Joe Mazzulla walked into a situation. He doesn't win here. He's probably canned, I think. I don't know about that. Maybe? We'll do that another night. We're here all week. Just don't get me boring. Don't give me boring, and it's okay if you are. But I just wanted to just set up this matchup because we have over in or out coming up next. And I want to hit on that. But when it comes to this series, though, there are plenty of storylines. They're the 2 highest scoring teams in the league. Can the Pacers defend? That's a big question. Rick Carlisle versus Joe Mazzulla. Carlisle, who won a championship with the Celtics, has won championships elsewhere, now has a team, right? Has a good team. Aaron Nesmith, a guy that was drafted, traded for Malcolm Brogdon, who's no longer here, right? Helped you get Drew Holiday. The Miles Turner stuff, I will never forget the Celtics not wanting to trade Gordon Hayward for Miles Turner. How about that trade now, Skaz? Wouldn't you do that one now? Oh, yeah. And Pascal Siakam's won a championship. Granted, with Kawhi Leonard, but still was a big part of that run. So people have called the Celtics boring. Maybe they are. This series won't be. The Pacers are coming off a 7-game series and don't have anyone to defend Tatum or Brown. These are the new faces of the NBA Finals, people. Both of these teams built through drafts and built through trades in the draft. For years, the NBA has wanted to be like the NFL when it comes to parity, and now you have 3 of the 4 conference finalists, and we'll have a new champion for the 6th straight season. The NBA dynasties, they may have come to an end. Maybe the Celtics lost to the last great dynasty.
Or maybe one will just be starting.
Or one will be Skaz. There you go, bro. We got in or out. Coming up next. It's not boring. Next. Not boring. Next here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
What's it gonna be, McFly? Are you in or out?
You're listening to
to work something out. And let's not forget, Fanatics also not involved in Scribblegate either with Tom Brady, so I am curious how they kind of fix this thing.
All right, we will move on to a Joe Murray submission, one that I am very curious. Joe, you simply put hot dogs from heaven. So,
Yes.
Joe, are you in or out on hot dogs from heaven?
So, while many people looked up at the sky while they were at the Seattle Mariners game the other day, they have a new campaign. Hot dogs from heaven. And what they would do is they would put hot dogs on a parachute, put them in a container, and then drop them into the stands. And people would get hot dogs from heaven. In. You want to shoot T-shirts? No. Give me hot dogs. Would you rather have a hot dog or a T-shirt?
I'm taking the hot dog.
Give me the hot dog, baby. Especially from heaven.
What about Target salami from heaven?
How would you drop that? Would it just be like, when you go up to the gas station and they leave the stuff up front? Like, you grab just Target salami. You know what, Target? If someone from Target is listening, you're missing out on a great experience here. You could sponsor segments. We have a very high rating. We just did like a 19 share or something at night. Thank you. I think the Red Sox... Oh, Rafael Devers hit a home run again. Hot dogs from heaven. Do you get it now?
I get it. And I'm in.
In. Imagine if, down in Fenway, they shoot him from, the Hancock. And they just... That'd be cool. In or out, Skaz. In or out.
All right. Moving on.
Glizzies from God.
That sounds like former intern, something Bryson would say.
Oh, that's great.
All right, Joe, we'll head to HBO for this one. We did learn that Steve Carell is out of the Office reboot, but it was announced that Steve Carell is set to star in a new HBO comedy series from Bill Lawrence, the creator of Ted Lasso and Scrubs, I believe. The series follows an author's complicated relationship with his daughter whilst on a college campus. Joe, are you in or out on a Steve Carell HBO comedy?
In. He turned down The Office, as you mentioned. By the way, I screwed the... Fanatics is suing Harrison, I believe.
Oh, really? So it's the other way around.
Well, maybe something's changed there. It was that. That's why I thought I went with it, because I knew originally Fanatics was suing him, and now I thought now it was the other way around. Now, whatever it is, the NIL money. That's where I'm going with it. Anyways, what were we just talking about again?
Steve Carell.
Steve
HBO
Carell in. But what's he going to do? I like Little Miss Sunshine. You ever see that one?
Oh, great movie.
I like that.
Paul Dano, yeah, that's a good one.
But what? 40-Year-Old Virgin was his best. Anchorman. But what else can Steve Carell do? And I'm in on him. If they're gonna have a show, I'm in.
I think he was in that Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon morning news type show, but I never really watched that.
I think he's fine. I'll watch, but there's never gonna be an Office again. Last night I was watching the episode, can't even share it. There was so many things that happened on that show that you can't talk about anymore. But I like Steve Carell. Local guy. Former teacher.
Local guy, good guy. All right, Joe, another one that you put in Slack earlier today. AEW is doing a match and a meal. I'm guessing this is literally you're just paying to go watch a match and you get a meal with it?
Well, they had their first episode recently. Yeah, so this was interesting. I saw a match and a meal and I go, but yeah, AEW is doing match and a meal where basically, and I know Eddie, like I said, I know Eddie Kingston was on this year. I'm trying to get you the actual of what they're trying to do with it, but I don't know. It's on YouTube, right? So you can come and watch it on YouTube. But Match and a Meal, it's going to air on TBS's YouTube channel every Friday at 2 o'clock. And what they want to do is basically get people to... Remember, they used to do like a table for 3 on WWE? So they're kind of like getting people together to watch a match while eating lunch at 2 o'clock. I'm in, you know why? Because maybe I'll get a snack and watch a match. Maybe I'll have my own table for 3. Table and a meal and a match, though, that kind of goes well. It's like their version of Table for 3, which I really liked. But, yeah, it was Eddie Kingston this week, Renee Young, and I forget the other guy there. In on that, though. All
right, Joe. As everyone listening knows, it was NASCAR All-Star Weekend this weekend. They had the NASCAR All-Star Race. And I'm not going to ask you about the All-Star Race, Joe, because that was not the story this weekend. The story was we got a brawl at the NASCAR All-Star Race. So, Joe, are you in or out on NASCAR fights?
In on NASCAR fights, but let's get back to the All-Star game for a second. All right, NBA, you have a basket, everybody gets together, right? They solicit all weekend long. It's like an illegal tampering period, right? MLB is kind of like they're all there for the first time, wide-eyed, who's going to do the home run derby, blah, 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 right? NHL, it's skills and whatever, hugs. I don't watch NASCAR. I don't care for NASCAR. I respect NASCAR, but I'll tell you this. If you get a bunch of drivers together for an all-star game, they're not packing that thing in. They're rubbing. They're racing. And things got testy, right? Kyle Busch? You want to go at Kyle Busch at an all-star game? He'll punch you in the face.
The best part about this brawl and why I loved it was, did you see when this guy got, like, when he crashed? It was the second lap. So this guy got pissed in the second lap. He got wrecked. And then he had to wait 198 laps for the race to finish. And he was still pissed. So I respect, if you're pissed for that long, you got to throw hands.
He marinated, air fried.
Oh, he was air frying.
and then launched. But they had like the All-Stars. What are they just... I'm just going to drive a different car. Today we're going to drive a different car today.
Yeah, you can't use the same car, right? Because then if you wreck it, it's like you just wasted your car.
I'm going to try to warn my beauty that's been in the garage for a while.
Imagine being pissed off for 198 laps, though. That's impressive.
NASCAR All-Star Weekend? That's awesome. Why does that sound wicked cool to me? I mean, I used to go to jet cars under the stars in New Hampshire. I know nothing about NASCAR. I do know, though, that you can tailgate and leave and come back. I never knew that. I didn't know that. But yeah, the NASCAR All-Star, when I saw it, I go, oh, there was a fight? Great. When was the last time there was like something controversial in an All-Star game? I know that Pete Rose broke a dude's leg. Oh, a couple of guys got into it. Hockey, right? John Scott and Evander Kane.
Well, he was like the last pick of the draft, right, or something.
He got into a fight in the All-Star game. Wonder if I'm missing any on that one. But anyways, in on NASCAR. Like, you can't mail in the NASCAR All-Star race.
Tough to fake going 200 miles an hour.
Oh, well. Anything else tonight?
All right, Joe, we'll end with this one. It feels like we went away from the Taylor Swift in or outs for a while, but there's always some out there. And news broke today that Taylor Swift had a meeting with the Marvel head of creative, I believe, Kevin Feige, for a role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, Joe, are you in or out on T Swift to Marvel? Superhero Taylor Swift.
This is going to sound really corny, but I think she's already a superhero.
At what point does it become overset? Like, when is it too much?
I mean, she says no to the Super Bowl halftime.
Yeah, yep. Because she doesn't need it.
She does not need it.
Bigger than that.
She doesn't need Marvel either.
No, certainly not.
No, it would be cool if she did she was like the tortured poet.
Marvel kind of needs her right now, though, I think.
No, but like imagine if her act was the tortured poet.
They create a new superhero for her.
Like her like superpower would be like singing,
ruining the lives of her ex-boyfriends or something.
Just she could be like I'm drunk in the back of my car. I'm going to yell at you. But I don't know what to do. Like, she's just going to sing, and it's going to paralyze everybody. They're going to go mute when she sings. Or go deaf, sorry. They're going to go deaf when she sings. I don't know how. How do you make a Taylor Swift character? You know what? I'm out. You know why? Because she's already a superhero. She's got her Eras tour. She's got her Tortured Poet. She's got her 13 and her, folklore. She could just be a different era tour and just morph into it. She's already Superwoman. Thanks, Chuck Olson. Marvel is dying, huh? They brought X-Men back. I used to watch that and Captain Planet back in the day. Then wrestling.
Forgot about Captain Planet.
He's a hero, gonna take pollution down to zero.
Feels like that feels like something that would be more popular nowadays, doesn't it? Captain Planet. Like, I'm surprised that hasn't been. Everything else has been rebooted.
Way before their time. They were way before their time. The Planeteers. You can be one too. Saving the planet is the thing to do.
Yeah, I'm shocked that hasn't been rebooted.
The power is yours. All right. Anything else tonight?
We got a couple extra, but we'll say we got 3 full shows this week. So Wednesday, Friday, we'll be back for some more in or out.
All right. If you guys have any in or outs, we have 2 more live shows this week here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Headlines is coming up in a second here, and a great one. One that you'll never forget retired today. We'll tell you who that was coming up next here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
WBC Bus from the Town Fair Tire Studio, the home of the Bruins, Patriots, Revs, and Celtics.
Come on, Maxi, step back. 3 is good.
Boston's home for sports is 98.5 The Sports Hub, an easily media group station. Sports Hub headlines.
All right, the Patriots, they had their OTAs, voluntary OTAs today. All 4 quarterbacks in attendance, including Bailey Zappi. Matthew Judon, though, is not at practice today. The Patriots did make a trade earlier this offseason. It was Devontae Parker sending the wide receiver to the Eagles. And, well, Devontae Parker has announced his retirement. He's out. Celtics and Pacers play Game 1 tomorrow night. Kristaps Porzingis is out. Xavier Tillman listed as questionable. Mavericks and Wolves will meet in the Western Conference. And the Red Sox got a bunch of home runs tonight. They won 5-0, a shutout. Tanner Houck, 7 innings, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, 94 pitches. And Devers is now homered in 6 straight games. Ceddanne Rafaela also went deep for the Sox. Headlines, they are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive cover for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm Joe Murray. Next update, 30 minutes.
It's not just the games. It's the preseason, the postseason, the drafts, the trades, front office drama, the locker room banter, and you talking all about
blah,
it.
blah, 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 blah.
On Boston's home for sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
We started tonight on the Bruins. Got into the Celtics-Pacers series. We just did in or out. And usually that always, when we go all around, tends to open up people's minds and thoughts. So Neil is in Franklin. What do you got, Neil?
Hey, Joe, I heard you talking about Captain Planet. You got to check out Don Cheadle on funnyordie.com. He did a remake of Captain Planet when it was like Captain Planet went all gangster. It's absolutely hilarious.
Really?
You can't play anything on the radio because it's like swears and stuff, but it's so funny. So if you can, check it out.
Wow, I got to check that out. Wow, 2011. I see that right here. Don Cheadle is Captain Planet, a short. A real threat to the environment. That's cool. Oh, they did it in 2012 too, huh? Guess I'll have to check that out. Are the Ninja Turtles still like a thing? They're still a show? Man, I loved the Turtles growing up.
Yeah, I believe they had a very, very popular animated movie maybe last year or 2 years ago that was very critically acclaimed.
Yeah. And then obviously Super Mario, Barbie just happened. I wonder what the next big one would be.
Maybe like a G. I feel like they've done G.I. Joe, though.
Should we just mention the Red Sox won tonight 5-0, but should we also mention that Chris Sale is the third pitcher ever to have a 5-start span with 43 strikeouts, 2 or fewer walks, and no more than 2 runs allowed. The others were Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer to do that. How's that trade working out right now? Grissom for Sale? I wonder how that one works. You know what we should do? Whenever we need a Red Sox opinion, you know what we do, Skaz? We go to Tyler Milliken's Instagram. And we may have breaking news.
This is Breaking Sports News. Powered by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. On 98.5, The Sports Hub.
According to Chris Cortillo, according to Tyler Milliken's Twitter, Garrett Whitlock has ligament damage in his elbow and surgery is on the table. Bullet slider, right? Bullet slider. Bullet slider. Oh, I get to use that again, huh? Last time it was Alabama Mac. This time it's Bullet Slider Whitlock. Ligament damage. How many guys has this now hurt? Pitchers. So Pivetta missed some time, came back, got lucky. This one hurts. They haven't got this kid right. Came over as a Rule 5 with the Yankees. Was really good out of the bullpen, but they want to make him a starter. And then they give him the bullet slider this year. And now he has ligament damage in his elbow. Surgery is on the table. But are they going to have to just develop their own pitching now? Instead of getting guys that were in other organizations? And think of all the guys that they have already with Tommy John surgeries that can't even pitch this year. So, I mean, I know people aren't... Damn. Tough look there, considering the Chris Sale stuff that we just mentioned as well. We're going to talk to Alex Barth. He was at OTAs. If we have anything more on this Whitlock thing, we'll have it to you in headlines in a little bit. But we'll talk to Alex Barth, 98.5thesportshub.com, coming up next here on The Sports Hub.
More Joe Murray coming up on The Sports Hub.
Murray. Alex Barth, you guys know him. We hung out a lot during the draft, but he's still going. He's from 98.5thesportsup.com. He was down at OTAs today. Alex, how are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Joe?
First off, before we get into today, what do you think of the reveal of the uniforms for Joe Milton and Drake May, and did you like the blue on blue?
I'm still not a fan of the blue on blue. I don't think the jerseys themselves are terrible. Like, when you pair them with the silver pants, it works. I've also seen some, like, mock-ups with the white pants that actually looks kind of cool. But they got to go away from the blueberries. Too much of a high school look.
Agreed. Didn't like it. And I'm out on blue pants. Feel like you.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
So the NFL rule when it comes to uniforms is once you change uniforms, you have to stick with that uniform for 5 years. So starting next year, the Patriots, I don't know if they're going to or not, but next year they can change uniforms again. This will be the 5th year of the current uniform set.
I like that. So obviously a little bit of a different. Well, I guess what was the different feel today for voluntary OTAs? Now that Gerard Mayo's the head coach, what were some of your takeaways with the feel of how things are different?
Definitely looser. I would say, just from a media point of view, I think there's a little more, not necessarily access, but it was a little more rigid in the past about, what we could and couldn't report, when we couldn't report it. And there's still some of that, obviously, but, that was let up a little bit. I think it was more, definitely the press conferences have been much more conversational with Mayo, much more back and forth. Besides that, I guess it felt like a pretty typical OTA practice. I think the one thing that changed was, and I don't know if this is a Gerard Mayo thing or just, we didn't always get access to the first OTA. So I don't know if this is a Gerard Mayo thing or just the timeline. A lot more individual drills today. I would say it was a 50-50 split individual versus team, whereas in the past it was maybe more like 35-65. But that may just be their young team. They're installing a new offense, and there's things they want to handle. So I don't know if that's a Gerard Mayo thing, but that definitely felt different.
All right, and you saw 4 quarterbacks in action today. You also saw Alex Van Pelt in action today. Seemed like they were working on footwork. What other things did you see between the 4 quarterbacks and the offensive coordinator?
So footwork was the big thing. I talked about those individual drills. Most of those were some form of footwork drills, which isn't surprising given that's something we know Alex Van Pelt values highly and something we know Drake May and Joe Milton for that need to work on. The interesting thing was the rotation. They talked about Drake May is going to have to come in during the draft. After the draft, Elliott Wolf, Gerard Mayo got up there and said Drake May is going to have to earn his spot, and that's what you saw today. He was the third quarterback. It was Jacoby Brissett, then Bailey Zappi, then Drake May for most of the day. There was one period where they split, and May went with Jacoby and Zappi went with Joe Milton, but I don't think it's going to stay that way. It shouldn't stay that way, but as of right now, Drake May is going to have to work his way up from the bottom of the depth chart.
All right, so what'd you see from Drake May? I heard there was a couple of nice long passes. Did you see any hitches or anything like that? What'd you see from Drake May?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and really slow it down. I don't see a ton of that stuff. There's definitely some. I think it's more chemistry based than anything else where, he's waiting to see where receivers are going to be. He's not necessarily sure where guys are going to be when he wants to get the ball out. That'll come in time. The thing I saw, again, to go back to the footwork, is he there where his footwork is like top level NFL caliber? I wouldn't say so. But I do think you see progress already from where he was at UNC to now. And I think some of the benefit of that is they changed the offense quite a few times in the 3 years he was at UNC. But now he has one thing he can focus on, he can work on, and it looks a little smoother. You can still tell it's like he's processing it. It's very deliberate. But you can see the wheels starting to turn there in terms of improving his footwork. And, yeah, like you said, the ball explodes out of his hand. We saw that last week at rookie minicamp. That's not going anywhere anytime soon.
All right, Alex Barth joining us here on 98.5 The Sports Up. Check out all his work, 98.5thesportsup.com. What's the situation with Matthew Judon? I know yesterday I was reading from Mike Reese. Probably would like to get, or he's a priority this offseason for potential contract extension. Do you think that's in the best interest to the team, is extending a guy now who, if the team isn't that, I know the team isn't projected to be good, but Could he help somebody else, or is getting an extension a priority for this team?
Well, look, you got to do something with him because he has no guaranteed money on his contract. I'd be surprised he's playing under the current contract. I think at this point you got to extend him at least 1 year, just because if not, you're looking at a potential holdout. That could be bad. He is a leadership guy. Like, there is value in having him here for another year or two, even if they're not going to truly contend. Yeah, I said back in the offseason, Joe, I think we talked about this. This situation is actually very similar to what happened with Stephon Gilmore a couple of years ago, where they moved a bunch of money up a year to get him to come back to practice. He did. And then a year later, they needed to resolve that. They never did. Gilmore ended up holding out, and they traded him for like nothing. And then he went on to still be a pretty good player. So I'd hate to see that with Matthew Judon. I wondered if maybe they looked at trades in the offseason, just given where they're at. I think Judon would have had some significant value. But at this point, you're not going to get that kind of value from him. I'd hate to see another situation where we get to like October, Judon still doesn't have a contract and he gets traded. They have this cap space. He is an important leader. I think at this point you want to see them try to keep him around. I wouldn't give him anything more than 2 years, right? Rewrite this year, give him another year, but I don't know that I'd do any more than that.
All right, Alex, what was the status of the offensive line today?
So the interior looks good. They've got options on the interior. I still think left tackle was a massive, massive question. And Chuks Okorafor, the guy they signed from the Steelers, he's the favorite to win the job. It certainly looks like that. But he's a converted right tackle, and that's a tough switch. I don't think people realize how hard it is to go from playing right tackle to playing left tackle when you really haven't done it. Okorafor did it in college. That was 6 years ago against, not nearly the same caliber of opponent. And he talked after practice today and said it's a process. And it's going to take time and it's going to take effort. It's not easy to do. So when you're hearing that from your potential starting left tackle, it's not the most encouraging thing, especially since plan B at left tackle may be Caden Wallace, the third-round pick, who is also a right tackle who's trying to move to left and is going through that same process. The only other guy we saw work in there was Vidarian Lowe, who is a true left tackle but is a project in his own right. That's going to be the major, major, major question mark spot, I think, throughout the year is left tackle. We'll see what Scott Peters can do, if he can get somebody ready to play over there. But no matter who their left tackle is at this point, it seems like it's going to be a project player.
What is the expectation for Cole Strange this year? And, that pick not working out.
No, I mean, first off, he's got to get back on the field. He's still out recovering from that knee injury he suffered late last year. But, they were working City So at left guard today, and he had a very good year last year. Like City So, sneaky, very good draft pick. So the question is he over there in the meantime for Cole Strange, or is that his spot? Either way, Cole Strange could end up in a competition for his job. Nick Leverett, a free agent they signed from Tampa, he got some looks today. They have Layden Robinson, the fourth-round guard. Like, there's going to be a competition there whenever Cole Strange is back, and that's the other part of it. Is he back to start the season or not? They changed the IR rules a little bit this year where you don't have to make the initial roster to be activated from IR. You can have two guys placed on IR at, on cutdown day that can come back. They're going to have some options with Cole Strange. We got to see when he gets back on the field.
All right, Alex, one more thing. In your article today at 98.5thesportsup.com, you mentioned that veterans got an extended look today. I know that there was the rookie camp last week. Are there any veterans that maybe surprised you, and were there any rookies that you're like, wow, that guy can make an impact, where that veteran where they can make the team over a potential veteran?
I mean, I think the whole wide receiver position is fascinating, and it's tough because there wasn't a ton of true football today, but, you see them giving guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyquan Thornton, Jalen Reagor a full look, and when you look at the depth chart there, you've got four roster locks in Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, and then the two rookies, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. So those guys are on the team. KJ Osborne, he's one step below a roster lock, whatever you want to call that. Like, if they don't keep him, it's hard to see it being because somebody beat him out. If they don't keep him, to me, it's because they're not keeping five receivers. So you have those four I named before in Osborne, that's five. Are they going to keep six? And that sixth spot would come down to Juju or Jalen Reagor or Tyquan Thornton. One of those guys is really going to have to prove it's worth the team keeping them around, because these rookies you feel like are going to get a real chance. But it felt like, Juju was out there a good amount today. Reagor was out there a good amount today. Tyquan Thornton was out there a good amount today. I'm not telling you that any of them are locked to make the team, but I don't think that the team is willing to just quit on them right away either. I think they're all going to get their chance.
And Devontae Parker announced his retirement today from the Eagles. Wouldn't extend, remember? Wouldn't extend for a ball, didn't want to take accountability, and didn't want to be on a potential Super Bowl team. Could one of these wide receivers be traded to the Eagles now that he's retired?
I don't know about that. I mean, he was considered a bubble player in Philly to begin with. There wasn't a guarantee he was going to make that team, so I don't know how much they're looking at that. If you're going to move one of those guys, I still look at Juju Smith-Schuster to Kansas City. They have some depth issues there. Even the guys that are on the team aren't the most reliable. He's had success there. If you're going to trade one of these guys, I think that's the move. I think it's Juju back to Kansas City.
There it is. Juju back to Kansas City. All right, Alex, anything else you anything else going on?
Well, I'll be down at TD Garden tomorrow covering the Celtics, and actually they'll have me and Matt McCarthy on for a little Eastern Conference Finals preview from 6 to 7 tomorrow from Hurricanes down by the Garden. So tune into that.
Wow. So you and Matt get to hang out at the Garden tomorrow?
I don't think Matt's covering the game. But we're going to be at Hurricanes leading up. We're your lead-in tomorrow.
That's great. I didn't know that.
I'm really looking forward to it, actually. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I think there's actually a good amount to talk about with the Celtics, even though they got the less exciting opponent in the Pacers. I would have rather see them play the Knicks. The whole Porzingis storyline would have been awesome. But, 6 to 7 tomorrow.
All right. Well, here we go. We got an announcement now. Alex Barth leaving football to talk basketball tomorrow with Matt McCarthy, then cover the game for 98.5thesportshub.com. You're doing
I can do both. I don't have to leave one to do the other. I can do both.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I'm on post game. If you want to call in, you can do that too. Who knows? All right, Alex, appreciate you, bro. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
All right, Alex Barr, check him out tomorrow too, live from Hurricanes, the lead-in tomorrow night for the Celtics game 1. So we'll hit the headlines here, and we'll have more with you. I see calls. I see tons of people in our chat. We'll get to you guys next here on the Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines.
All right, well, the Red Sox won today, if anybody cares. Dream win again.
You blame me for that one.
Yeah, this is a collaborative effort. I sent it to you. You trusted me. You played it. It's collaborative.
A group dump.
That was a group dump. Dump. That quote was going to say that the Celtics have done nothing and nobody cares about your Eastern Conference Finals. Or making it to the finals. You have to win. Go figure the first dump of the night's our own. It's our own.
It's been a while.
That's funny because of all these post games we've been doing. Everyone's just been really emotional.
Wearing it out back here.
Maybe some others missed it, I guess, huh? That's funny. Anyways, what we're going to talk about? I can't remember now.
Does the Celtics winning the East matter?
Yeah, I think it matters. I mean, they get over the hump, right? Last year they didn't. A couple of things on this series. So I do think the Pacers are the more difficult opponent than New York. I've always felt that way. Pacers set an NBA record for offensive rating, 120. The Celtics, though, were the best at 122. And, Indiana upset both Milwaukee and New York in the postseason, so I give them credit for that. They've been the best offensive rating in the playoffs. Boston comes in second. They're 121. Boston's 118. But can the defense hold up against Boston, who's really flexed their muscles, plus 12.8 net rating this postseason? And, Halliburton against the Celtics this year, 15.8 points per game. His average, 20.1. The Celtics have done really well defensively against Hallie. In 7 games against the Knicks, Halliburton averaged 21.3 points per game. He shot 54% from the floor, 44% from 3. He added 7 assists, only had about 1 turnover per game. So his scoring average dipped to 17 points in all of Indy's 3 losses versus the 24 points per game in the wins. So he's a big part of their offensive output and what they do because he is a 0 defensively. So how much effort do the Celtics want to put into Halliburton's offense versus shutting down the supporting cast? That's where I think the Celtics need to look into defensively. And I looked at Jason Tatum this year versus the Pacers. He averaged 33 points a game, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. He shot 58% from the floor and 49% from 3. He was 3-1. The Celtics were 3-1 this year. But against the 3 remaining teams in the playoffs, Jason Tatum averages 33 points, 33, 11, and 6 versus the Pacers this year. 39, 5, and 3 versus the Timberwolves this year. And 36, 10, and 4 versus the Mavericks. Everybody wants to put it all on the star player. I think the game has completely changed. I'm going to say this 55 times from now until the end of the NBA Finals. The NBA and the way that they play is not like how we played. It isn't how you played your CYO basketball or Boston Neighborhood League or how you were in high school or even in college. It's a completely different game the way that they play. It's size, speed, the whole 3-second rule, all of that. They now play widespread offenses to get ISO situations, and the pick-and-roll defense is the hardest thing to stop. It is. So everybody wants to say this one player's got to take over. He's got to do this. I think with the Celtics, if Brown and Tatum do what they do need that third score. And a lot of people think, oh, well, they can't do it on their own. I think they've proven they can't do it on their own getting to a final. But if you want to talk about averages and numbers versus the teams remaining in the playoffs, Jason Tatum has dominated all of them. All of them. 4 games against the Pacers, 2 versus the Timberwolves, 2 versus the Mavs. He's 33+ in all of them and dominating on the boards. So here you are. You want Tatum to be the guy? He has been that and then some versus these 3 remaining teams. 617-779-0985. You got Devin in Florida. What's up, Devin?
And a lot of people think, oh.
Wow. That was really loud. I sounded good, though.
Hey, we know he's listening.
Sounded good. What do you think of that? Tatum's numbers versus those three remaining teams.
Yeah, I mean, the only team defensively I think that would give them any real issues is Minnesota, just because of the size, and they have Jaden McDaniels. And, yeah, the Pacers don't play any defense. They're not huge. Siakam's their 4, Turner's their 5. That's nothing crazy to overcome. So, yeah, I mean, Tatum's going to have mismatches the rest of the way, or at least he should. Or I should say the Celtics and Missoula should be able to coach up mismatches the rest of the way.
Joe Mazzulla.
Joe Mazzulla, who gets crapped on for losing to Eric Spoelstra and then beating Eric Spoelstra, while Mark Daigneault in OKC, who just lost to what most NBA fans would consider a renowned doofus, and Jason Kidd is
the same Jason Kidd that got fired in Brooklyn.
Yes, that same one. And now Mark Daigneault, the future's bright in OKC. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 4 months younger than Jason Tatum. But yeah, I love these playoff narratives.
Chronicles.
All
right, well, we'll have more of a chronicle next in musings. I don't think Christina knows what musings are. Murray's musings coming up next here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe.
Stuff in the world unrelated to sports. So sit back, relax, and get your mind in the game and listen to the words of a grown man complaining.
May 20th. May 20th. Got a couple of things for you off the bat here and musings tonight. Skaz, I know you had an interesting weekend overall. You saw the sunrise in East Boston today?
Yeah, not by design, but yes, some flight delays. You know, what are you going to do?
Well, can I tell you this, though? You may have lucked out. Sounds like there's going to be a major travel advisory tomorrow in the city of Boston.
Oh, really?
I don't want to get political now. But the Celtics are on, and we have to get here.
Yeah, downtown Boston, I would steer clear tomorrow, maybe.
The other day. Very interesting takeout. Technically, I wasn't taking out. Well, at this certain establishment, they would not allow me to add the order to go. Then they had to get the manager to come in. It was a quite a situation. So I said, how about I just order it now, like I'm going to eat it? But you give me a to-go box, and I'll put it in there. No.
They weren't having that?
We can't do that. I'm trying to help them out. I want to pay for my meal. I want it to go. All of a sudden, sit there and eat the food. All of a sudden. I'm like, you know what? Just bring it out to me. They go, no. Now my manager's going to think you're going to get it to go, and I can't do that. And I'm like, doesn't matter what I'm doing with the food.
There's nothing more frustrating than wanting to pay for something and them just like not letting you.
Take my money!
Yes.
Oh, by the way, another food take. A different establishment. This was around lunchtime, Skaz. I ordered a submarine sandwich via an app. The store's app, not like a third party. So it said that your order would be ready at 11:22 or 12:22 or whatever it was. So as I'm waiting in line, this group of bros walk in, 4 of them, and they order 4 sandwiches, and they make the 4 sandwiches in front of me while I'm waiting for my takeout delivery. And now they're eating them, and then they were done before mine was ever made. So I go, you know what? I walk up to the line. And I go, yeah, can I get a turkey and cheese, please, with just mayonnaise and bacon? Turkey. Sudden, I'm waiting in line for my sub roll. And I'm like, what's taking so long, man? They got these guys in and out of here. What's going on with me? And all of a sudden, my takeout order. Hey, Joe. Yeah, it's me. 10:42. So I now have my takeout order. You following along here? I was in line and already ordered another sub. So now I'm getting 2 order that I originally ordered. Tried to bypass that by ordering one while there, and they still screwed it up. Joe, always in Boston. I grew up there. I had an address there for 30-something years of my life. Can you believe that? I played Little League Baseball in Boston. I went to grade school in Boston. I played in the Boston Park League. I am from Boston, sir. I now live north of it. But weird take, though. My delivery has been faster than me picking up online is the point of my story. Agree or disagree?
It sounds like you had a nightmarish time trying to get that food.
So this is what I've learned. If you're driving home, right? You know, I'm just going to call and get a pizza on the way home, Get it delivered. Because when you go to pick it up, yeah, hey, I'm Joe. Pizza and fries. Oh, yeah, hang on. Joe's here. Oh, okay. And then I see them throw the pizza in the oven. And I'm like, here we go. Get it delivered. It will be there so fast.
In.
Just get it delivered. Pay the extra fee. Pay it. Start tonight off with Cher. 78 years old. She won Best Actress and had a Billboard #1. Did you know that? Ted Allen, 59 years old today. Timothy Oliphant, 56 years old today. Busta Rhymes, 52 years old today. Matt Zershi, 40. I don't know any of these people. A lot of them are like pop singers and stuff. Any other birthdays? Oh, actor James.
What
a joke of a birthday day.
I mean, Timothy Oliphant, great, but other than that, not much.
Ryan Martinini of Mudvayne is 49.
Joe, we did get some sad news earlier. I don't know if you saw this, but are you a Stained fan?
Stained? Yeah, what happened?
John Wysoki, the founding member of Stained, died at age 53.
Why, since I hold my head up high. I'm feeling I haven't taken a call during musings before. Should we do that?
Oh, I heard you have a problem with getting food delivered. You know where you won't have a problem? The Dave Hot Chicken Every One in Saugus.
I love the Dave's. Many of the people at that place, so maybe we know the same people.
Mr. Mark Lewis, incredible human.
I know Mark.
Yeah, great guy.
I heard the old Boston Market there.
Exactly.
I know, bro. I know where I'm ahead of the game here, bro.
Well, you know what? You come to the grand opening.
I'm telling you, you guys got to get involved in the show. You guys got to get involved with the show. Maybe we could have a Dave's Hot Minute. I didn't mean to hang up on him. I hope he's not mad. Now I need to know.
It's not always a lot of fact checking with the callers, but that's what he said.
Called the Pirates. You got to check them out. They play at Saugus. It's so cool. They have NFL players on their team. They lost 41-40 this week, but it was a tremendous game. Hitting into the boards, mascots, dancing, food. It's a hell of a time.
Bruins, Revs, and Patriots. Touchdown, Patriots. Boston's home for sports is 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Tanner Houck, the winner. Rafael Devers homered again. Sensanon Rafael also hit a home run in this one. 6 straight games with a homer for Rafael Devers. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow between the Pacers and Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis is out. Xavier Tillman listed as questionable for that one, and was not. And Devontae Parker has announced his retirement from the NFL. He was traded to Philadelphia this year. Headlines brought to you by The Long Drink. You can enter to win the ultimate golf getaway courtesy of The Long Drink at participating liquor stores and restaurants near you. Just look for the bright blue can or visit longdrink.com today. I'm Joe Murray. Your next update in 30 minutes.
This is Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown turns the corner. Finger roll is up and good. Score to the foul.
Listen to home of the Boston Celtics. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
All right, back here at 98.5 The Sports Hub. I'm Joe Murray. I don't know if I can be messing with 20-year-olds that age, but feel like if they needed me for a snap, I could help out. You know, just a little snap, I could get down still. It's the recovery time. That's the problem. 617-779-0985. We'll get into how the Bruins are the most disappointing team in sports over the last 50 years. Yep, strong take, but I believe in it. So we'll get into that coming up in a little bit. Joe, go for it. Play special teams. My days are over, but you know what? I would have. TV shows when I was a kid. It was one of my favorites. All right, 617-779-0985. Hey, by the way, what a golf weekend, Skaz, huh? It all started out with Well, your boy, Scotty Scheffler, having the best day ever. I even joked about him. Oh, he's going to choke it away. I even joked about it. I didn't think he was going to get arrested and stretch in jail and then shoot a 66 the next day. But it was a good golf tournament. And I'll tell you, going into the final round, Colin Morikawa, for the people who say Xander Schauffele is not a closer, get your facts straight, because he closed it out yesterday, winning the PGA Championship.
Yeah, in a loaded field with a very gettable golf course. I like Xander a lot. I'm a fan of Xander. I think he's one of the 5 best golfers in the world right now. So for him to finally do that was pretty cool to see. And yeah, there is no asterisk or question in the past.
Got it.
And the Scotty story is
what's going
no body cam footage whatsoever of this incident, which raises numerous questions. So yeah, Scotty Scheffler should not have been arrested Saturday or Friday morning, and Valhalla's probably going to lose the major championship because of this. The player.
On the Sports Hall.
2000s when this came out, I like Stained. I've met Aaron Lewis before, but I got sad listening to them. Alice in Chains is my favorite band. I think you guys all know that. Aaron Lewis, highly influenced by Alice in Chains, wrote a song called Lane regarding Lane Staley's death. But John Wasaki has passed away. If I'm trying to think of a song, I'm trying to think like a nice little drum song that they had. Mud Shovel was pretty good. That was a good jam by them. But yeah, as they became more popular, they became sadder, and then came to a point where they were so sad that the band broke up, and I think Aaron Lewis went country. Right? He went country for a little while. Yeah. Well, maybe they'll get another drummer and be Stained 2.0. That'd be fun. That would click, huh?
It's already been debunked. It's not true. It was just a Twitter rumor. Yeah, I knew.
That was a quick finger right there.
Yeah, we don't need anybody spreading false information.
It was debunked.
It's already been debunked. It's already been a complete fabrication.
So Rory got divorced.
Yes.
And people think that he's with someone already.
Yes.
And that story is not true.
Yes. Someone who, is a media personality. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Already been debunked.
Guess we'll have to Google that one. Bill in Manchester, New Hampshire. Hi, Bill.
Hey, man, I just want to say, you bring me back in the day. Stains Break the Cycle, that whole album.
Sick.
That was my formative years, too. That was crazy to hear that song again. But, I wanted to follow up on your mention about the Bruins being utter failures. But I think that the Buffalo Bills going to 4 Super Bowls in a row and losing every single one, I think that's a little worse.
So here's the deal. The Bills went to 4 in a row, have never gone back, but that's 4-0, right? The Bruins 8 times in 50 years won once. Like, to me, going 8 times and winning once, but you did win one, I get it. But a team celebrating its 100th year, and in 50 of them they have won? That's disappointing of the teams that have knocked on the door.
Yeah, but think about it as a fan, because can you imagine how painful it would be to watch? Imagine the Patriots go to 4 Super Bowls in a row with Tom Brady and lose every single one. Do you know how heartbreaking it would be? Do you know we would see riots like they had in Vancouver in 2011? I just think that I don't disagree, though. I think that the Bruins core, and I think that Chara really showed how much of an important piece he was as a leader, because after he was gone, you couldn't do it. And I think that 2019 against St. Louis, blowing that really kind of stung, and it really proved that the Bergeron core as a whole is a failure. They couldn't win it without Chara, and it also, out of all the losses they've had in the Stanley Cup or trying to get there, it's never been an issue with goaltending either. It's mainly been offense, and so that's the really sad part. But hey, thanks for the call, man. Have a good day.
I appreciate it. All right, well, all right, Skaz, you settle this one. What's worse, 4 straight Super Bowl losses to the Cowboys and Giants, right? Some of the greatest coach teams, played teams of all time. 0 for 4, or 8 times winning only once.
Oh, it's definitely worse to never win one. But I'm also like, yeah, it sucks for Buffalo going 4 in a row, but like, it's still better than like, I don't know, the Bears haven't won since '85. Like, being completely I'd rather go to the Super Bowl and lose than miss the playoffs. Like, I know that's probably an unpopular opinion to some people, but like, give me the playoff games, give me the AFC Championship. Like, you can't win it every year. It's not a failure if you lose the Super Bowl.
Listen,
unless you're 17-0.
I will take a championship always.
Always.
Okay?
Always.
Buffalo losing 4 in a row is bad. Hey, listen, I know another team that's been there 4 times. It says here the Thunder, which I wonder if they're throwing in Seattle.
Which they shouldn't. Those are 2 different franchises.
But I think that's why. But and I know DJ won with them before that. So maybe it doesn't fall into that category of the 50 years. Anyways, 8 times. And I'll give you the list one more time. So the Lakers have gone 17 times in 50 years. They have 17 championships. Not all during that time, but you get what I mean. The Patriots 11 times won 6. The Yankees 11. Celtics 10. Bruins 8 won 1. So here's another thing I wanted to mention, because I looked at the rest of the leagues too. Every other one. It's been very interesting of late how seasons have been breaking down. So let me give you this one here. The NFL has had 7 multiple champions since 2000. Of the 7 multiple champions, 6 have been individual champions. So these are the one and done winners in the NFL. Colts in 2006. Saints 2009, Packers 2010, Seahawks 13, Broncos 15, Eagles 17. Notice a trend about those teams? So one was the Colts that beat the Patriots. Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. 15 was the Broncos. They were both Peyton Manning. And then Nick Foles. Very interesting on that one. When it comes to the NBA, there have been 4 multiple champions. In the last 20 years, 7 individual champions. So here's the one and dones. 04 Pistons, 08 Celtics, 11 Mavericks, 16 Cavs, 19 Raptors, 21 Bucks, 23 Nuggets. The NFL, the NBA really has back-to-back champions anymore, right? I mentioned the NHL. This is why I bring up the Bruins. 7 multiple champions in 20 years. So they have 6 individual champions. One and done winners. Carolina in 06, Anaheim 07. Bruins in 11. Washington in 18, Blues in 19, Knights in 23. When it comes to Major League Baseball, check this one out. 5 multiple champions. 11 individual champions in the last 20 years in Major League Baseball. One and done winners. 01 Diamondbacks. 02 Angels. 03 Marlins got the Yankees off of Red Sox. 05 White Sox. 08 Phillies. 15 Royals, 16 Cubs, 19 Nationals, 20 Dodgers, 21 Braves, 23 Rangers. Talk about a sport that doesn't have back-to-back. The last time baseball had back-to-back World Series winners, the Yankees from 98 to 2000. There hasn't been a back-to-back winner in 20 years? Or since 25 years? This is why I'm bringing up the Bruins being the biggest disappointment. They're an outlier. They were a one and done. Of the last, since 2007, multiple champions. Tampa Bay won 3 times. Chicago, Pittsburgh, the Devils, Colorado, Detroit, multiples. But they get theirs in 11. Carolina, Ducks, Capitals, Blues, which they blew. Bluey. And then Knights in 23. Huge disappointments. 617-779-0985. We'll preview more of this Pacers Celtics series, which begins tomorrow, and we'll get our final headline of the night now.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots began optional OTAs today. 4 quarterbacks in attendance. Drake May, one of them. Matthew Judon, though, not at practice today.
$300+ million. It's a failure. Like, you won 60+ games. You have built your team. You go out and get Drew Holiday. You go out and get Porzingis. And the season went exactly how you thought and wanted it to go when you made those moves. Because the season went that way, you extend Drew Holiday because he's proven all that he needs to prove that you want to continue forward with him. So guess what? It's time to win, and it's time now. Yeah, we don't care how many conference finals anymore. A finals appearance ain't good enough. You got to go win it all.
All right, back here, 98.5 The Sports Hub. That was Draymond Green talking about everything that the Celtics have done right, but yet win a championship. Duh! We know that now. We know that. So here are my keys to the series. I think Skaz agreed. Defense. Can the Pacers defend the Celtics? I think the Celtics can defend them. Right? Joe Mazzulla even talked about it. Defense is what gets you in the door. The statistic I'll give you is that when the Celtics keep a team under 100 points, they're 7-0 in the postseason. The Pacers averaged an NBA best 123 points per game during the regular season. They shot 51% from the field. It was the best mark in the NBA over the last 2 decades. In their 5 matchups against Boston, the Pacers averaged 117 points per game. They surpassed 120 points in 3 of those contests. The Celtics allowed an average of 109 points per game during the regular season. So this postseason, the Pacers have averaged 114 points per game. It's the top offensive unit in the playoffs. They have a 121 rating. So how will the Celtics do in transition defense? That's been some of the struggles they've had this year. Transition points, they've given up 24, was 4th. In the regular season, they gave up 26th. And the defensive end, this series is going to be one on defense for the Celtics. But as far as offense goes, the Pacers allowed the fewest made threes in the league this year. Do you know that? 10 a game they gave up. They were the only team to allow fewer than 900 made threes. And in the postseason, it went up a little bit. They averaged 11.6. So they're giving up almost 2 more threes a game, which with the Celtics, that could mean 6 points. Opponents averaged 120 points per game against the Pacers this year. It was 4th most in the league. They shot 50%, 49.6. It was the highest mark in the league. This postseason, opponents average 111 points per game on 46.7%. So there's a little bit of it's 10 points difference. They're saving 10 more points per game. I mean, I want to give the Pacers some credit here. Can they do that? In their 5 matchups with the Pacers, the Celtics offense posted an offensive rating of 126. They averaged 129 points per game, shooting 52% from the field and 44% from 3. They scored at least 112 points in 5 of those games. And they scored 155 points in November. Second highest total in franchise history. Wow. How do you slow down Tyrese Halliburton? I mentioned earlier this year, he averaged 20 points per game, 10 assists, and 3 boards. But he struggled against the Celtics this year, only averaging about 16 points per game. They added Pascal Siakam. He averaged 21 points per game, shot 55% from the field, and one of their best rebounders. And I don't know who defends him. Maybe Jaylen Brown will do that. Here's another one. Jaylen Brown defended Halliburton this year. 2 of 6, 33% shooting with 2 turnovers. Look for that matchup. We talked to Brian Barrett earlier tonight who mentioned maybe you put Miles Turner on Al Horford. Well, if you put Tatum on Halliburton, is that your best option? And when the Pacers lose, it's Halliburton who struggles. I like the move of Brown on Halliburton, the more I look at it. And just Mazzulla versus Carlisle, that's what I'm looking at. Carlisle's been there before. He knows his team. Mazzulla made a couple of really nice adjustments in the previous series when it came to timeouts. And the Celtics have been in this spot late in seasons. Last year, we know what happened. They got exposed. Extra possessions, turnovers. They got beat on offensive rebounds. A lot of things went into why they lost a year ago. They've tightened all those things up. Now they got to do it against a team that has scorers and a good bench. But I think relying on their defense in this series, what got them to the NBA Finals a few years ago, will get them back there this year. They're going up against one of the highest scoring teams in the NBA. During the regular season, the Celtics were. The Celtics can be one of the best teams in the defenses in the NBA. They can be. They show it this series against the Pacers. It'll be a huge jump into the NBA Finals. Mazzulla's first time in the Finals, and Tatum and Brown's first time. And we'll await the winner of Dallas and Minnesota. Can't believe I'm saying this, but defense will decide the winner of the Pacers and Celtics. The Celtics put up 155 against this team this year. It's still going to come down to defense. We'll wrap this show up here. On the other side, we'll tell you what's ahead for tomorrow as well. I'm Joe Murray. You're listening to 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe. You're listening to Joe.
back here, 98.5 The Sports Hub. I'm Joe Murray. Full show tonight. I sent a rundown earlier. Let's see how we did tonight. Bruins' most disappointing team in 50 years. Jim Montgomery's future. Allmark. 2 Game 7s last night. Celtics-Pacers preview. Patriots OTAs. Musing. Xander Schauffele. Bruins. Celtics path. I think we nailed everything tonight, everybody. Think we nailed it. See some people in the chat as well saying the Aaron Nesmith Revenge Series. Aaron Nesmith starter now for the Pacers. Good defender. He's been good. I'll be honest with you. He's been pretty good. Came to the Celtics as supposed to be a sharpshooter. Didn't work out. And was traded for Malcolm Brogdon. Larry says Brogdon cost the Celtics the finals appearance getting hurt last year. Interesting on that one. We'll tell you what we got going on tomorrow here on the show. Steve's in Peabody. Hey, Steve.
What's up, buddy boy? Thanks for taking the call. I won't keep you. The other night when I left the game Friday, you had Ty Anderson on. And I hope sometime during the year here, you might be able to get him back on for about an hour or so to break down some of the players that the Bruins could get in free agency. I'd really like to hear his opinion and maybe some calls.
We love Ty. We would love for Ty to be a part of this. So if we can make it happen, Steve, you're going to find out. And they will have, I believe, their final hockey show this Saturday, too, if you want to listen to them there.
Well, I'll be listening.
All right, man. What's going on with you? Ready for tomorrow night?
I'm ready for tomorrow night, buddy. Tomorrow and Thursday. Let's see what happens.
They're going to have T-shirts on the seats there at the Garden?
Probably will. They probably will.
Is anybody playing in between the games on Wednesday night?
I don't think so.
No show or anything?
No, nothing. There's nothing scheduled until like June 7th or 8th after the first finals game, which is on the 6th.
Steve, who has the best breakfast in the Peabody area?
Oh, I don't know the name of it, but it's down on 114 heading towards Salem. It's on the right-hand side. That's the best I can give you. Sorry.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thanks for your time.
I don't know what it is either. Guess I'll just have to take a trip up 114 towards Salem, right? Been really craving some French toast, guys. I don't know what it is. Had a French toast bagel recently. Oh. A cinnamon raisin French toast bagel with just regular cream cheese. You know, I'm not one of those guys that has that crazy cream cheese, you know. What'd you have this morning when you saw your sunset today?
I had a nice bowl of cereal. That's about all I ate when I got home. Little cereal, can't go wrong.
You put milk in that thing?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to make sure. What kind of cereal?
I had some Wheaties this morning, actually.
Wheaties, huh?
Big Wheaties guy.
You like wake up and you got to have your Wheaties?
No, I'm not, honestly not as big. When I was a kid, I used to love cereal, but now it's just like convenient.
I used to buy that, I didn't buy it, but that 12-pack of like...
Oh, the little ones?
Apple Smacks and Corn Pops and Frosted Flakes and whatever.
Pops and...
give me them all. Lucky Charms. Fruit Loops.
Yeah, I mean, cereal, it's just sugar. That's pretty much all cereal is nowadays.
Someone just said, oh, by the way, what's going on with the Revs?
Yeah, that's actually something I wish we got into a little more tonight. But yeah, the Revs are an absolute disgrace, debacle, embarrassment, whatever you want to call it. It's the product on the field is bad. That's one thing, but It seems like they're now having issues off the field as well. Caleb Porter, their head coach, manager, whatever you want to call him, doesn't seem like he has a lot of friends in the room or outside the room lately. The team has struggled. Carlos Heel, rumors that Carlos Heel is not happy with his role, with his...
I saw Jonathan looking for the coach, couldn't find him.
Yeah, so I don't know how much of that is true. There's conflicting reports, but yeah, things are not going well for the Revs. Just a team that has made money selling goalkeepers to the Premier League, selling other players around the world, and just not putting that money back into the soccer team for their actual fans. Yeah, it's as someone who likes soccer and wishes the Revs were better, it's frustrating. They had good attendance this year. They seem to be on the somewhat come up around here, and every time they seem to gain an inch of ground, they just sabotage themselves, it feels like.
We got to digest that one a little bit. We'll re-rack that one on Wednesday. How's that sound? We'll do a whole Revs segment. How about like 9:35?
Whenever you want. I'll be ready.
9:35. We'll just let the...
Might have to put out the bat signal for one Ryan Bell and see if he has any takes.
Oh, I thought you meant the Moose.
Oh, the Moose call.
Hey, the Moose call got Zoe last week.
Yes, it did. Right on.
The Moose call got Zoe.
Some alien talk.
All right, one more before we go. Mike on Twitter, did I just hear you say that the Bruins have been the most disappointing team in sports over the last 30 years? If so, you may have just won me an argument. He goes, how many more teams have been successful than the Bruins in the last 30 years? You can't count on one here. And he goes, bleep you not. Joe Murray just said the Bruins have been the most disappointing team. I won the guy an argument. It was 50 years. 50 years. 50! 8 times, 1 championship. 1! 8 times, 1 championship. And if I can be Coach Joe one more time, if you take more shots, you'll score more goals.
Put it on a T-shirt.
I know a guy. All right, well, so tomorrow it sounds like we have a pregame show live here on 98.5 The Sports Hub from Hurricane O'Reilly's. Right? And then...
Hurricanes.
Is that what it's called now?
I think it's called just Hurricanes.
Oh, Hurricanes.
I think.
Well, yeah,
I think.
I think back in the day it was
Don't want to
called.
upset anybody.
I know. Hurricanes. Used to be O'Reilly's. No, it's O'Reilly Auto. We got to go. Great job, Christina, on your first night. Great job, James Scaramuzzino.